as Pirates captain, according to Sibisi. More details at 3:30.
The Toffees are hunting for third victory in the early days of the league to maintain the position in the top half.
Chance for Everton, Beto and Dye! 2-1! Everton are back in front!
However, the Villains are prepared to put a good fight to achieve their first win of the season.
Might get in here, Munoz trying to block him, walking save and behind from Richards. Best chance in the game for Aston Villa, ball over the top from John McGinn.
This is the Premier League. Witness Everton FC and Aston Villa the Saturday 13 September at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Cello, Valencini, Gabby Mutuba and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
There we are. What for you moves the National Pulse? I can tell you now, if I look at myself, and my name is Ashraf Garda, and my wife's, Mal, she goes under Jamila Garda, but her maiden surname is Qasim. In terms of the Constitution now, what I can do is or we can both agree, instead of her being called Jamila Qasim Garda, I can be called Ashraf Garda Qasim, or something along that line. Now, why do I say that? Because there's a significant ruling from the Constitutional Court that has now declared that husbands are now at liberty to take the surnames of their wives. Obviously, I would assume they'd have to give you the permission to do just that, but it is allowed. So, what does the law say? Why would the law do that in the first place? And then there are cultural and there are, I would think, religious implications for many people listening in to the show. So when we talk about let's get moving and talking about what moves the National Pulse, I have no doubt about it. That one is top of the agenda. Of course, in the USA, what's top of the agenda in that country is a killing, an assassination, really, of a person who's an activist very, very close to Donald Trump, right? And it's dominated the news since late yesterday. I'm talking about Charlie Kirk. And then later on, there's also been the story of the reopening of the inquest into the death of Steve Biko 48 years after his death. That is another big story. And one other one that clearly affects your day-to-day life is the issue of, hey, where is the water? Which, as you know, continues. The Joburg mayor having a media briefing actually as we talk, right as we speak, okay? So, as you know it, my name is Ashraf Garda, unless I change it. And welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse. You can call into 086 000 2032. That's to call in live. Then WhatsApp, text or voice notes 0614 104 107. And you can tweet right away. Maybe in your tweets you can share your thoughts about what you feel. Would you change your name? And I'm talking about the males now. Would you change your name and the surname to include your wife's surname? Assuming, obviously, I have to make the assumptions. You must give it the permission. Would you consider it, or do you feel there are cultural and religious rights and norms that prevent you from even doing so, even if you chose to want to do that? On the other hand, did you try? Were you one of those people that when you decided to get married, to say, hold it, man, we're going to have a double barrel surname, both of us, in fact, not just the wife, because the norm at the moment is it's the wife that has the double barrel surname if she chooses to, and the husband retains that one single barrel surname when they get into the marriage. So let's talk about it. With me is Reverend Professor Musa Qulu, who's an independent researcher and cultural expert. Well, thank you for joining us, Reverend. You're now very much live on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf. Thank you. And I'm greeting you and your listeners.
Thank you. Firstly, are you surprised at this ruling?
Well, I'm not surprised. If you look at the Constitution, especially that section that deals with the Bill of Rights, law. I'll come to that later. But the Constitution provides for individuals to make choices of their own in the Bill of Rights, and the right to life, human dignity, equality. And I think the equality one is more important because it begins to say now, whereas in the past it would be unthinkable that a man could change his surname. But currently, in terms of the Constitution, that is a possibility. In fact, there are in West Africa cultural groups, in Japan, in Finland, also in South America, in Ethiopia, although not exactly 100%, that actually require the man to change his surname and adopt the surname of the wife. It's not a unique thing. The problem with understanding it, first understand that South Africa is a multicultural country, and there are many cultures. It cannot be ruled out that already in the country there are people who assume the names of where husbands assume the surname of the wife. It has not been researched, but now this opens opportunity for further research. There is a very well-known young man, the son of Dalimpo, for example.
Yeah.
He uses a double-barrel surname, Mpofu Walsh.
Absolutely.
So it's happening. The Constitution allows for that. The Constitutional Court had to rule on it so that people coming from diverse cultures can be comfortable. It is not compulsory for anybody to do it. And if people want to quit, for example, the kind of cultural traditions that they have been following, the Constitution understands that the two individuals that are getting married may sit down and decide on that if they are comfortable with it. You must remember that our rights are more of individual rights than group rights, although the CRL does deal with the group rights.
I understand. I mean, this came about because there were families where, I mean, look, and I stand to be corrected. I think in the issue of Mpofu Walsh, it would be a case of him adopting the surnames of both his parents, which is very different. And really, that's really not the basis of our conversation, right? But the ones that we know is that it came to the Court because there have been examples of a couple, a husband and wife, who wanted to, the husband wanted to adopt the wife's surname, and that was refused. So they had to go the legal route or else.
Yes, it could have been refused culturally. But as you know, when you have a constitutional democracy that focuses on the rights of individuals to choose, every other kind of activity that you would have had, even laws, are subjected to the Constitution. Even so-called customary law is also subjected to the Constitution. So people can move out of cultural bounds and explore new possibilities. And what it means now is that they are perfectly constitutionally protected. But the clans and the cultural groups may have a problem with it. But because it's...
Well, let's talk about it. So constitutionally protected, of course, if the husband chooses to want to adopt the wife's surname, it doesn't mean, just to be very clear for people listening, it doesn't mean it's an automatic given, as it has always been in the case of the wife adopting the husband's surname, because often they would get married and they would still retain their original names, right? So that would be an optional opt-in or opt-out if you choose to. But let's talk about the cultural issues here. How do you see this impacting different cultures? For many of them, it's like, so what? Just move on. But for others, it could actually alter how they interpret the very structure of their cultural society.
You know, Ashraf, one of the subjects that I wish to be introduced in the schooling system is the Constitution, so that we can all understand. Culture does tend to work according to groups. That's why we have the CRL Rights Commission for cultural groups and religious groups, linguistic communities, and so on, where they can go if they have a problem and they want a resolution. But when it comes to, for example, I heard some people saying that it may mean that the entirety of the Lobola package may have to be adjusted because it's been assumed that the male must pay the Lobola because the woman will come to join that surname. But we will not know until it happens. And it may have some other implications, because if people go to the Constitutional Court, they are then wanting that matter to be adjudicated not culturally, but according to the Constitution. And the Constitution, I think, where it always wins and is able to settle disputes like this, which are cultural, is to look at the Bill of Rights, what it says. Would you be taking away the rights of a woman, for example, if you force a man to take the woman's surname? But if a man is willing to take that surname, how uncultural would that be? It could be uncultural, but still legal, because the Constitution has ruled so.
Okay. So to help us understand it, I mean, you made the point that in terms of the Ilobola transaction, right, that comes about because now the wife will adopt the husband's name or family surname, right? And you're saying, in the light of what we've just been speaking about, if that changes, you're suggesting that could actually change the entire negotiation, right? Have you had any experience of that before? You know, I know the ruling has just come today, but has there been an issue like that before?
Well, let me, because I did do some legal phoning around and hearing about how people feel about this. There were those that raised the issue that, for example, when it comes to the Lobola, it's already happening that if a woman is working very well and is salary somewhere, professionals usually, and the man is weak when it comes to finances and assets, the woman will give the man the money to come to her household, pay the Lobola. So the people are saying that it's happening already. It's just that it's not open because culturally people don't look at it favorably. But what is likely to happen, and what must be understood also, Ashraf, before I rush to the next point, is that culture changes all the time. The major influencers of cultural stability was the missionization, industrialization, urbanization, modernization, and the school. So all those agents that came with foreign cultures influenced the way we looked at things in the past. For example, in Zulu culture, you could get married to a woman without paying Lobola. There was a condition that when the first daughter that she gives birth to, when that daughter gets married, the cattle will go back to that debt which you left. You did not have to pay upfront in terms of Zulu culture. And I've heard also that was the case among the Bavenda, the Ndebele, and other cultures in South Africa. But with the disputes that came, Shepstone was forced to design in the 1850s what became known as the Code of Zulu Law, which was an instrument to settle disputes related to cultural issues. So, but that is no longer here now. What may have to happen, though, following this ruling, the CRL Commission may have to consider going back to the drawing board about the code of cultural marriages that can help guide where families are not understanding each other. The good thing about this ruling today is that it's not compulsory to anybody. It's always a negotiated situation, and many people, majority, 99%, of fellow South Africans, I think, will just ignore it and continue with what they've yes.
All right, we'll find out whether they're going to just ignore it or not. I'll get your thoughts just on whether there would be this clash of culture and the Constitution in just a moment. Let me just throw it open to you listening in, wherever you may be, whichever culture you follow, whichever surname you have, and if you're a male and you're considering changing it and including your wife's surname into your surname for the very first time. Either way, I want to know. 086 000 2032 to call in. And then you can WhatsApp 0614 104 107. I'll take your call in just a moment or so. I think it's a fascinatingly important conversation that we've never really had before, isn't it? So this is it. This moves the National Pulse.
Greetings to everyone. My name is Kinelo Matibela, best known as Maestro. I am an SABC Sport football analyst. I've never been to a picnic before. Oh my goodness. People sometimes struggle to pronounce my name, so everyone is just saying Maestro, so it has stuck with me. A good joke I heard when somebody said to someone, "You look so dark, you literally look like under the bed." My favorite dress code, I don't like being formal. Oh, I'm not a fan of meat. My favorite meal is definitely putu and milk. My current favorite song, A Million Little Miracles, can even count them all. To South Africa and the continent, tune into SABC Sport.
Catch the incredible football analysis on Match Days with Kinelo and Maestro Matibela. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Wayne, for you, what is the real deal?
For me, it's really customer service. It's getting my money's worth. So if I phone Outsurance and I've got a problem, they're always there.
So it's not just we've got your money, now off you go.
No, money is not the biggest deal for me. It's service. Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
What does you always get something out mean to you, Lorette?
Outsurance made it possible for us to live our dream, to travel more with the money in our pocket that we save.
Let me know, what is it?
725. It was unbelievable. My husband, he sits there on the chair and he's just nodding his head and saying, yes. This is really not just an advertisement. This is really real.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we're going to conclude our conversation with Reverend Professor Musa Xulu, who's an independent researcher and cultural expert, and that's all because of the Constitutional Court ruling that is now declared that you, if you're a husband, you are now at liberty, you're allowed to take the surname of your wife, which, my understanding, you were not allowed to do so before. It was always the other way around, isn't it? So what does that mean in terms of the law? What does that mean in terms of the culture? Reverend, let's wrap up with this then, right? Do you then foresee a position of a clash then between the culture and constitution? Now, I know that may vary from culture to culture, but those cultures that would see this ruling as a threat and an affront to their culture, do you see conflict in that?
Well, there's going to be many. There's going to be many who will oppose this quite vigorously. Also because, marriage has a religious component to it, not Christianity. But in African traditions, when you marry to a new surname, you don't just marry to the person. You also marry to their ancestors, and you have to begin to address them, introducing this new person and so on. So what is likely to happen? I don't know how knowledge is crafted in the ancestral world, but there may be problems later on in the marriage where, for example, it comes to the issues of which ancestors are now superior in this household and which ones are not superior. And there could be those clashes later on, although that is already addressed in terms of many cultures, that when you get married, your grandmother on the mother's side is your main ancestor. So what happens, therefore, is that you carry from your mother's side, you go there, and still happens that there's a relationship between the ancestors of your mother and the ancestors of your father. But those are the things that we will see when they happen, because Ashraf, culture has this thing of gradually introducing itself, sometimes in reaction to a law, and this time will be in reaction to the constitution over a long period of time. If we were to rise up in 400 years from now, we of this generation, we may find that actually all males are now, it has become fashionable for males, cultural, in fact, for males to adopt the surname of their wife.
All right, let's leave it at that. I'll tell you what, thanks for your time, Reverend Professor Musa Xulu, the independent researcher and cultural expert. By the way, I'll tell you, we will chat to a representative from the Commission for Gender Equality coming up after 5 o'clock. So listen out to that. Now, let's get your thoughts. Let's get the serious thoughts of the ConCourt ruling. And listen, we're open to, I expect somebody's going to make some fun. Either way, let me just tell you quickly in terms of my understanding of the Islamic culture that I'm a part of, right? Which is, and it's not practiced in South Africa because obviously there are different norms in our society that allows exactly that flexibility. But the reality in a classically Islamic culture, they would actually, the son and the daughter would both follow the surname or the name, not even the surname of the father. So it would be, if my father, for example, is Samad, right, Sam. So Ashraf, the son of Samad. That's how it would follow. Okay, and the same would be with the daughter. Obviously, we've adopted surnames now as per effectively Western influence. You may come up with your own. I want to know. It could be a huge learning lesson for all of us today. Khotso in Midrand, you're live. Go for it.
Yeah, afternoon to you, Mr. Ashraf.
Thank you. Leave the Mr. out. That's also part of the culture. You see, let's just drop that from the show. Just Ashraf.
All right, it's fine. Yeah, look, I totally opposed and this kind of a judgment. Firstly, Ashraf, I just want to give a warning. Like, for example, I'm no longer taking this constitutional court serious because they themselves, they are confused. Number one, how can you take this kind of a ruling whereby the person the likelihood that you are going to find the likes of Justice Theron, she's not even married, but she comes here and preside over a very sensitive issue and take a ruling on it. Take, for example, Justice Mahopo. Justice Mahopo, where he come from in Limpopo, wherever, he knows that this thing will never happen whereby a man takes the surname of a wife. But the danger of it is that constitutionally you are opening a void whereby these devil worshippers and these Nigerians and these illegal foreigners will take advantage of it.
How will they do that? I mean, there's a constitution, and I mean, you've mentioned different people.
I'm coming with it.
Yeah.
I'm coming with it. What they will do, it will be easy for them to assume the surname of the South African women so that they should belong in our society. Of which culturally, I think the professor has put it very well, that a lot of groupings, a lot of cultures, they will totally oppose this kind of a madness, because you cannot have always when you have a constitutional court brings out a ruling, that ruling always is against the norms and the standards of society, whereby society is highly grounded. But we have people, a group of 11 so-called educated people take something which is always contrary what the society wants. Okay. That is why you see this kind of anger in society.
Okay, Khotso, you made your point. I think you made your point very, very clearly. Thank you for that, Khotso. Khotso is suggesting there's going to be huge opposition to it. Musa in Alberton, let's hear your thoughts. Yeah, Musa, go for it.
Yes, Ashraf, I think there is an attempt to erode our culture, and we accept it in the name of the Constitution. This is the Constitution which I think is uploaded the entire world, that is producing what really I would say is disgusting. Firstly, they approved the marriage of men. A man and a man, they can marry. I don't know who takes the surname of who. And they say the 12 years old, they can have sex and so forth. They are just eroding us, and they are just wiping us off.
All right, so just very quickly, we're on to news time. Are you saying that this is a deliberate attempt to erode culture?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. We no longer we don't we can't value ourselves.
Okay. Thank you for that, Musa. I'm sure there are many further opinions. So what do you make of it? What do you make of the Concord ruling that allows you, if you're a male, to now adopt the surname of your wife as part of your surname, something that has not happened? It's been the other way around. There's been double-barrel surnames. There's also been the wife just keeping her own surname as well. But then, as you've heard, culturally in many societies, with the Ilobola transaction, in fact, that would be part of that entire conversation in the first place, whereby that would mean the changing of the surname culturally as opposed to just your personal feelings about it. Let's get the news headlines, just gone 3:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Gauteng Police Commissioner Tommy Tombeni says he has ordered that officers not use excessive force on protesting residents in Westbury and Coronationville in Johannesburg. Democratic Alliance Federal Chairperson leader Helen Zille is calling for swift prosecution and a severe sentence for the deputy principal at Bronkenspread Primary School who allegedly raped an 8-year-old learner on the school premises. And Britain is to mass-produce interceptor drones to help Ukraine defend itself from Russian attacks. It's part of a wider technology sharing agreement between the UK and Ukraine. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Pretoria has a crash before Linwood Road, and on the N1 southbound, a stationary vehicle before Buccleuch Interchange. In KZN, the M13 westbound in Hillcrest is where a crash is reported at Gillets. On the N2 northbound, queuing traffic through the construction area north of Spaghetti Junction, and the N3 westbound in Pietermaritzburg has a stationary truck reported, and that's before Market Road. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Kromboom Road exit, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and on Swartklip Road in Tafelsig, protest action reported between Steve Biko Road and Baden Powell Drive, so please do avoid at all cost. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Shumi, what are we talking about today?
We're talking...
Well, I'm sorry, Kaya Buthelezi is asking the questions. It's got nothing to do with football, okay? About, men adopting the surnames of the wives. And he says, what if I marry 6 wives? Okay, let's move
Then you'll have 6 different surnames.
Oh,
a very good
goodness.
afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, we're starting things off with rugby this hour, where Springbok woman coach Swayce de Bruin has decided to go for a 7-1 bench split for the World Cup quarterfinal against New Zealand this Saturday. De Bruin named Loksa Vaina Ubisi and Anati Kolo, loose forwards Kathy Jacobs and Lerato Makua, and front rowers Yonela Nglingola, Luchel Hanekom and Nombu Mliki, making up a very powerful bomb squad. Eloise Webb covers the entire backline, and there's also some key players returning to the match. Notably, it's captain Nolu Boy returning to the side as one of the 10 changes to the starting lineup. Meanwhile, the Stormers have signed fly half Clinton Swart on a short-term deal, with Springboks Damian Willemse and Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu unavailable until December. Then it means that Swart's arrival is both timely and very tactical. In football, Orlando Pirates captain Nkosinathi Sibisi insists that he's not under pressure to win his first trophy as the club's captain as they take on Stellenbosch in the MTN 8 final at Mbombela Stadium on Saturday at 6 p.m. Sibisi has declared himself fit and ready for selection ahead of the Wafa Wafa decider after missing the side's last 6 matches across the league and the MTN 8 due to an unspecified injury.
It's good to be back. It's never easy whenever you're injured. And, in terms of being ready for selection, I'm ready for selection. Been training with the guys. So, it's good to be back. And, with regards to Mbogazi captaining the team, I think he did a fantastic job. For him to lead such a big institution, at his young age, and to do the things that he's been doing, not only for Orlando Pirates but also for the national team. So it can only get better from here, and I say kudos to him for being able to take up that task.
Well, in the meantime, Jamie Vardy says that he feels as fit as ever and is keen to prove the doubters wrong as the 38-year-old begins a new chapter in his career at Serie A club Cremonese. Vardy joined promoted Cremonese after leaving Leicester City, where he scored 200 goals in 500 appearances during a 13-year spell. His move comes after Kevin De Bruyne and Luka Modric also arrived in the Italian top flight. And when asked by a reporter if veterans were still motivated to perform at the highest level, Vardy says that his desire had not been deemed. Then in athletics, South Africa's sprint king Akani Simbini has declared himself ready for the biggest weekend of his career at the upcoming World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. Since turning professional back in 2012, Simbini is yet to win an individual outdoor medal at a major international championship, and he says he's very determined to change that.
Preparations have been going good. I think this year has been a very different year for us, but everything has been going good. Everything's going according to plan, and the body's feeling good. I'm feeling good and very confident going into this weekend. So I'm looking forward to it, and so everything is good. We're good. Camp is good. So
Well, Akani will be competing in the men's 100-meter heats on Saturday and hopefully progresses through to the semi-finals and final on Sunday, and wishing him nothing but the best along with Team South Africa as a whole. That's it from my side for now.
Okay. Listen, you never said anything about that hand of God goal for Nigeria against Bafana yesterday.
What is there to say?
Goal, no goal.
You said it's a hand of God.
Culturally, let's not contest it. Okay, move on. Thank you.
Emotions are brewing and the thirst for victory is real. City Lads have a great plan to display a terrific brand of football, but Copperbelt ladies believe this is their moment to triumph. This is the Hollywood Bets League. Do not miss out on City Lads versus Copperbelt ladies the Sunday 11 September at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sports on DTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So I got home last night. I actually went out, got back at about 10 o'clock at night, and I look at a video on the X platform on Twitter, and you wonder whether this is made up, and you wonder whether it's fake or not. And then you realize it's genuine, and you see an actual shot at a person, Charlie Kirk, that seemed to have got to his neck, and you see the blood pouring out, really. And then you find out, if you didn't know before, who he is and who he was. And then you find out, in fact, he's passed on. And there's been a huge outcry about it, mainly because in U.S. politics, he's not an ordinary person. He's the founder of Turning Point USA, which is a non-profit organization, I think very close to Donald Trump and championing conservative politics and a whole lot more. So let's find out a bit more about who he is, right, with Sherwin Rice-Pease, the SABC News U.S. correspondent. Sherwin, appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Always good to be with you.
Thank you. So let's talk about the Charlie Kirk factor. In the past tense now, of course, right? Who is he? Why is he that significant? So that outside a normal killing, which can happen, this clearly has, maybe captured the imagination is the wrong word. There's a sense of outpouring from many, many people in the USA, but also around the world too.
I'll get to that in just a second, if you'll allow me. Let me just give you a quick update of what the FBI and the Utah Department of Public Safety has just told us in terms of their investigation in seeking to find Charlie Kirk's assassin. They say that they have identified this individual. It is a male individual, and that they are confident, Ashraf, that they will track down this person. They've been tracking this individual's movements that led up to the killing at this university in Utah. Using CCTV footage. They've also recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle in a wooded area near where this event took place. They've not identified a motive yet. They say they've received over 150 tips from the public, and they are confident that they will catch this individual. So that's the update from law enforcement. So who is Charlie Kirk, right? He was a right-wing conservative political activist and organizer, very young, only 31 years old at the time of his death, whose outreach really targeted the Republican youth vote across the United States through this organization, as you've mentioned, Turning Point USA, that played, Ashraf, an instrumental role in galvanizing the youth vote in favor of Donald Trump in 2024, in that 2024 election victory. That really saw a surge in young voters for the president and the Republican Party, which essentially defied expectations that this voting bloc was a more liberal-leaning, progressive, pro-abortion, LGBTQ rights, pro-climate change, which is sort of antithetical if you vote for the Republican candidate in many ways. And so he was really able to sort of turn this around. And even at this event yesterday, you'd be shocked to know that there were over 3,000 people that came to this event, where he really engaged in debate, right, with people across the political spectrum. He had a conservative perspective, but he was happy to engage with other people. And so it's a real tragedy in that sense that here you have someone, yes, your political views might not align, but he was happy to have that discussion in a public forum with you. And so a tragedy on all counts.
Now, that person that you mentioned, as per the FBI report, I mean, I take it, besides knowing it's a male, you know nothing else, right?
Nothing else. We don't know what the motive is. And so, yeah, you know, and we should be very careful about not getting into speculation here. You know, people are already saying, even the president of the United States has sort of criticized the radical left for this type of terrorism. But let's understand that there is political violence across the board targeting both Democrats and Republicans in this country. So it seems to be a little bit soon out of the gate to really speculate as to what the motive is here, who this person is. We don't know that, and we should really wait for law enforcement in that regard.
I suppose I think the part that's interesting now, again, as you said, in the absence of actually speculating, is the fact that it's now happened in the USA. Not exclusively, so it happens in other countries too. But if someone wants to get close and try and eliminate a public figure, they can get very close to doing so. I mean, Donald Trump has had two attempted assassinations on his life in the build-up to that election, right? And that could have easily ended in this way, yeah.
Yeah, and the shooting, one of the shootings you refer to is that event in Butler, Pennsylvania, when he was campaigning in July last year, and of course clipped his ear. And you know, you talk about seeing Charlie Kirk's assassin video yesterday, and you know the penetration through the neck. It really does give you a visual of what Donald Trump's attempted assassination might have looked like had this individual been able to hit the target, if you will. And it speaks, I think, Ashraf, also to you know, the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms in the United States, which is, you know, part of the fabric of this country. It is part of the fabric of gun violence in the United States. And you had this individual that was very far away from the subject, right? They say he was 200 yards, which is over 100 meters away. And you need a specific type of skill, but also a specific kind of weapon, right? A weapon that you would assume that they talk about this weapon being a high-powered bolt-action rifle. I mean, what do you need that kind of weapon for in a city or in a university town on the streets of the United States? And this has been the political fight between Democrats and Republicans writ large. It was Joe Biden that really was very much pushing for an assault weapons ban in the United States that lapsed under the presidency of George W. Bush. And this has not been something that, you know, both parties have been able to agree on. So again, we will have this discussion about gun rights and the right to bear arms and the type of weapons citizens should be allowed to carry in this country. But let me just read you a statement from Charlie Kirk in that regard. Okay. He said this a few years ago, quote, "I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other rights. That is a prudent deal. It's rational." So he himself implied that deaths by gun violence in the United States was an acceptable consequence of the right to bear arms in the United States. And unfortunately, this has ended tragically for him.
Yeah. And just lastly, without, as you said, we're not speculating as the who, but Trump has already talked about the far left. I've seen sort of, maybe not in equal measures, there's been grief for supporters of Charlie Kirk, but there's been many others who've pointed out his positions regarding gun violence in terms of being anti-wokeism and then, pro-conservative Christianity, and therefore picking up issues, global issues, that he's been, for many people, on the wrong side of what would be right. How has that been received?
I think there's been bipartisan criticism of this moment. All the former presidents, be that Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, they've all commiserated about this death. Joe Biden, for example, said there was no place in our country for this kind of violence. It must end now. Jill and I are praying for Kirk's family and loved ones, and we've seen similar sentiments from the other former presidents in the United States. And remember, right, I mean, this is not precluded to or confined to the Republican Party across the board. Nancy Pelosi's husband most recently was attacked in their home. A hammer-wielding individual broke into their San Francisco home, targeting her. Congresswoman Gabby Giffords shot in the head in 2011. She was a Democratic congresswoman. You think about this attempted assassination on the president last year. Melissa Hortman, a Democratic state lawmaker in Minnesota, and her husband were murdered in their home by a nut job, if you want to quote the current president. So this goes across the board. The question is, are you going to see political leadership that can bring the country together in this moment, or are you going to see more division? That's a very tricky moment for the United States.
And maybe that's a question we'll be discussing some other time. What happens next to the USA? Sherwin Bryce-Pease, thanks for your time. Much appreciated, as always, connecting with us on the National Pulse. Now, what about Donald Trump? We've already made the point that the late Charlie Kirk, very much a supporter of Donald Trump, and maybe vice versa. So what did Donald Trump say upon hearing about the passing of, and the assassination in this case, of Charlie Kirk?
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
And there is Donald Trump. Now, you can comment on that, Donald Trump's tribute to Charlie Kirk. You can certainly comment about Sherwin Bryce Pease's comments regarding Charlie Kirk and the FBI about one male being found to have been the shooter. That's what they believe it would be. Then, of course, the earlier conversation we had regarding you, if you're a male, to be able to now change your surname, to adopt your wife's surname as part of your surname, if that's what you choose, as per the Concord. But it's not just that sort of secular thought. There's been pushback already on the show, and it could be from others, from people pursuing a cultural aspect of why this cannot be. So whatever it is to be or cannot be, I want to hear it, and let's get your thoughts right after this.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So here's a comment, Ashraf. Why is Trump blaming the left's rhetoric? That's the Democrats and others to the left, of course, for this young man's assassination. Is it because he was his known supporter? Yet when the 2 Democratic state senators in Minnesota were killed a few months ago, Trump never even went on national TV to condemn it like he did now. This goes to show how unfit, toxic, and divisive he is to be a president. Comes from Vic in Pretoria. Well, Vic, perhaps you've answered the question that you've asked yourself. Thabo in Germiston, I want to hear you. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Right, what's your point?
Good man. Ashraf, this Concord ruling, this Concord ruling, it leaves much to be desired. My question is, if we talk about the rights of South Africans in this case, obviously we're talking about various cultural practices, we're talking about various religious beliefs and practices, that informs, what we refer to as our constitution or our constitutional rights, in this country. So I'm not too sure. How did the Concord judges arrive at that kind of a conclusion? That I'm aware, Arshaf, that they use this word can use the surname of the wife. But now, whose interests, whose constitutional rights and interests are they protecting, in this manner? Because how many South Africans, as we speak, have expressed interest in such? How many South Africans have expressed interest as such? And I can tell you, Ashraf, that this ruling was based on some material interest of someone, you see. So I can tell you, it's very unconstitutional, and it needs to be challenged. It can be challenged because whose constitutional rights, are they protecting? How did they arrive at this decision?
So you're saying the Concord ruling is unconstitutional. I hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got that.
Yes, it's
Thabo,
unconstitutional.
thank you for that. I wonder who else agrees with that. Michael in Quebec, hi.
Ashraf.
Yeah, how's it, man?
Look, one day, right, the Constitutional Court is going to rule that, let's say, a brother and a sister, right, a case comes in front of the Constitutional Court where the brother says that I'm in love with my sister, and the Constitutional Court is going to rule that because of individual rights, yes, you can't love your sister, your own blood sister. One day that's what's going to happen. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. You're suggesting that it's far too liberal, if I can... anything goes. Thabo in Germiston, thank you. Sorry, Michael, thanks for that. Right, Papi, you're in Aldos. We haven't spoken in a while. Hello.
My friend, are you well?
I'm good, yeah.
You're not surprised me to great extent when I phoned him now, and I told your colleague I want to throw an insinuation on the PA and Caton McKenzie. His response of, you want to what? I couldn't stop laughing over that. But anyway, we were like, a small people just together. I think it was yesterday or day before when a man, he did not say is he from Soweto or from East Rand, and he said, the people of Western, why are they crying? Because what Caton McKenzie did after they voted for him is almost nothing. Anyway, it is known very well that Mr. Caton McKenzie does not originate of Aldos, although he bought a house now, and he's like in Aldos and so forth. So it is about Aldos who put him in the limelight. Secondly, when he got hold, I'm not certain as a Rooster, Beaufort versus a George, there's something like 210 million which just disappeared like that there. And nobody knows what happened.
But I'm trying to understand what you're trying to tell me. I mean, can you just give it us in one line so we understand you? Like, there's just one thing you need to tell us about whatever you're raising.
Yeah, well, actually, concerning what Caton McKenzie has actually done for the people whom have voted him, especially, can I say, not in racial, no, but especially for the colored community, as I said in George, and we heard the story from this man of they're going on for the protest now, where the Mr.
Yeah, but you're not giving it in one line. Papi, I need to leave it because I need to take other calls as well, really. I think it's important when you just come on, just make one very clear point so we fully understand what you're trying to say. That's just for the majority of us, so we can get more calls and we all understand what you're saying. Boyizwa in Parktown, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Ashraf. You know what? I want to speak to this judgment at the Constitutional Court. Apparently, I think they're imposing or trying to set some ugly judgment, very un-African, very unethical, something that we know some of us have lost any trust with the Constitutional Court. Because how do you rule to such things? And I think you have done a good job.
So you think it's unethical. All right, got that for Yizwa. Thank you for that. Let's see if I can pick up another quick comment. There's been many, right? And really, if you're going to, some people trying to post over 30 seconds voice notes, really 30 seconds is what we want.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Suhane from Durban. You know, Ashraf, on this thing of accepting your wife's surname, I don't think the Constitutional Court consulted broadly, culturally. I'm Zulu, but I know even Venda or Bediman will agree with me, even Sotho will agree with me. It can never happen. If as a man I change my surname, what about my bloodline? How is my bloodline going to grow? Because man shatang liting Fusumus Gababa. How is that possible?
Okay, God, I'll tell you what. I mean, maybe because we certainly will get the Commission for Gender Equality's thoughts later on after 5 o'clock. But all of you, and we accept the fact, as the caller just said, I mean, there's Zulu culture, there's Xhosa culture, there's others too. And even within those cultures, there would be differences, right? But perhaps you can tell me how it affects your culture, because I would suggest it's going to differ. In the meantime, let's think about it. Here's the news at 4 with Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, officers ordered to not use excessive force on protesting residents, and UK to mass produce interceptor drones for Ukraine. For SFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a good afternoon. Gauteng Police Commissioner Tommy Mtombeni says he has ordered that officers not use excessive force on protesting residents in Westbury and Coronationville in Johannesburg. Mtombeni has called for calm between residents and the police and called on the community to cooperate with officers. Yesterday, several people sustained rubber bullet wounds during a protest by residents following prolonged water supply interruptions. Mtombeni elaborates.
I had to come down in here to ensure that I assure the communities, as the communities that are concerned about what happened yesterday in terms of the action which was undertaken by the police. I've spoken to those who are deployed here today to ensure that they restrain the use of force.
The accused in the Chesney Kepler murder case, Mandla Buthelezi, has been re-arrested. The officer who allegedly killed the Gauteng crime warden in December last year has violated his bail conditions and it has been revoked. The Independent Police Investigative Directorate arrested Buthelezi outside the court in Johannesburg. The case has been postponed to the 17th of next month for a pre-trial hearing. IP spokesperson Lizzie Shopping says Buthelezi will remain at the Moroka police station until his next court appearance.
Buthelezi allegedly violated his bail conditions as he is accused of intimidating witnesses in the murder case. He will be detained at Moroka police station until his next appearance.
Police say a man has been shot and killed in Pontyerval on the Cape Flats. Police spokesperson Wesley Twig says officers attended to the crime scene where they found the victim with multiple gunshot wounds. Twig says the victim was declared deceased on the scene by medical personnel. He says the motive for the attack is yet to be determined and no arrests have been made. Democratic Alliance Federal Chairperson leader Helen Zille is calling for swift prosecution and a severe sentence for the deputy principal at Bronkhorstspruit Primary School who allegedly raped an 8-year-old learner on the school premises. The accused faces 3 counts of rape. Zille has emphasized that educators have a sacred duty to protect, guard and teach children. She says cases like this underscore concerns about safety and accountability in South African schools.
When there is alleged child abuse in our schools, it is a terribly serious issue. And the Children's Act has specific provisions that require us to take action after such things happen, or when such things are suspected to happen. And in this case, a child injured allegedly by her deputy principal having sex with her as an 8-year-old child on the school premises, told her mother, and her mother did the right thing. She stood up and she went to the police.
Britain is to mass-produce interceptor drones to help Ukraine defend itself from Russian air attacks. It's part of a wider technology-sharing agreement between the UK and Ukraine. Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine 3.5 years ago and has also been launching massive air bombardments on the neighbouring country. The BBC's Denny Abehad has the details.
Britain's Ministry of Defence says fast-flying interceptor drones are considerably cheaper than regular air defence missiles. They cost, it says, less than 10% of the amount spent producing the attack drones they're designed to take out. The ministry also praises their effectiveness. The interceptor drones were designed by Ukraine with support from British scientists and technicians. The aim is to produce thousands per month. No time frame has been specified. The partnership aims to help Ukraine, but Britain too, in terms of jobs and its own security.
Recapping the top story, Gauteng Police Commissioner Tommy Mtombeni says he has ordered that officers not use excessive force on protesting residents in Westbury and Coronationville in Johannesburg. I'm on Dilambana for SFM News headlines at 4:30. In sports, Pirates steady in MTN8 final preparations despite internationals away. New Zealand look to crush South Africa's Rugby Championship title defence, and Proteas women in good mental state ahead of 2025 ICC World Championship or World Cup campaign rather. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Modderfontein Road in Lombardy East has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions between Curry Road and Wordsworth Road. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange, and the N1 northbound in Pretoria, a crash before Linwood Road. In KZN, the M4 northbound slow moving through Mhlanga, and the N3 eastbound has a stationary truck before Cliffdale. And South Coast Road is where truck congestion is reported in that Rosberg area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving on Plattekloof Hill, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colourful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Zinzi, the Gen Z. Word on the street is you sold your car.
Yes, and I needed a glow up. Hashtag no hustle, no hassle.
So wait. The influencer got influenced by We Buy Cars.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And they came to me. They checked the car, they gave me an offer. Oh, and they paid me immediately. Easier than an Insta Live, without the weird DMs at 2 a.m.
I didn't understand half of the things you just said, but hey, We Buy Cars. Geared for the glow-up, geared for you.
With the ever-changing financial landscape, it can be difficult to make sense of all the moves at times. Join me, Jimmy Moyaha, on the SAFM Market Update with MoneyWeb, Mondays to Thursdays, 6 to 7 p.m, as we break down the key market trends, top financial stories, and smart investment insights, all in one place. It's everything you need to stay financially informed and ahead of the curve.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, being a Thursday, we continue our countdown with the countdown to G20, and we'll have another conversation in collaboration with Channel Africa coming up around 4:15. Do not miss that. Lots of important insights and takeouts for you by listening into that. Now, what about the other big takeout? There's no question, if you're on any WhatsApp group in the city of Joburg, for many of the suburbs, you are rather infuriated at the city of Joburg, at Joburg Water, the Joburg Mayor, maybe the provincial leaders as well. I mean, everyone, because there are pockets of suburbs where there's no water, and it's continuing not just for a day or two, but 1 week, 10 days, 11 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I believe. There's a crisis. but we've heard that before. So the Joburg Mayor, Dada Morero, has been addressing the community in the Coronationville area, Coronationville Westbury area today, and this is what he said.
Now I must explain it so that you don't get confused. To get the levels high, it means we need another 7 days. But we are saying to you, over and above, we are going to try in the next 2 days to switch off other areas at night to try and push the water to reduce that 7 days. That's what we're going to try. And then I'm asking you not no. That's what we're going to do to ensure that you have water. The second part, what we are going to do, we are going to provide 15 water takers immediately. No.
Okay. Clearly there's unhappiness there because essentially saying we're going to be borrowing from some other suppliers of water. And the key word that's come out 3-4 times is we're going to try. We're going to try. They're not sure either. Now the Joburg Mayor then, however, has made a commitment to the residents of the city of Joburg.
We are making a definite commitment that with all the interventions that we are going to be doing here, at least in the next 7 days, you'll have full supply of water on the 7th day. Now I must explain it so that you don't get confused. To get the levels high, it means we need another 7 days. But we are saying to you, over and above, we are going to try in the next 2 days to switch off other areas at night to try and push the water to reduce that 7 days.
Oh my goodness. 7 days. Publicly they talk about what happens on the 7th day. In the 7th day, you will get water. We think, says the mayor, according to him anyway. Clearly, the community in that region, Coronationville and Westbury, disgruntled. But listen, there are other communities, the ones that I live in, already 3 days, 4 days, no water. You know, it's come intermittent. It's not nothing. Something has got to give. Let's get further comments from you before we connect with the Channel Africa team. And a lot of it has been that conversation about name and culture.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Mr. Suleiman. Ashraf, when it comes to names and culture and stuff like that in the Constitution, it's set right. Nothing wrong with it. What I think people should look in the Constitution is individual right. Why no service delivery? Why so much fraud and corruption? Why no employment? All that I think you should look at. Thank you. Bye.
No, but I mean, they're really two different things, Mr. Suleiman. I mean, I hear you. You know, it's like saying, don't talk about this, just talk about that. There's 100 things that affects every one of us, like water, for example, and people have opinions about it.
Ashraf, good afternoon. This ruling of a man taking the surname of a woman is directly designed for the foreign nationals. All these foreign nationals are going to marry our desperate women here in South Africa and take on their surnames. And guess what? They are all going to be the citizen of this country. South Africa has lost the plot in this one.
So how do you know that? Like, you just know it, that that's the plan. It's only to do with foreign nationals and nothing else. I just love the confidence of people. They just get all the answers. I don't have it.
Ashraf, good afternoon. My name is Saratin Limpopo. Tell me, Ashraf, now what will the child or children of that couple, what will they use as their surname? Are they going to use that double barrel surname? If yes, now when they are going to get married, so they are going to have another double barrel surname, which means they will have the first double barrel and another double barrel for their marriage, for instance. I just want to understand how. Well, I understand that is a choice, yeah, but I just want clarity there.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it is a choice. It's not going to happen to everybody. It's going to probably happen to one out of every, I don't know, million people, I think. But yeah, I'm thinking about a school book and just how it works out on a label of a school book with a child who's got 2 double-barreled surnames. Right, let's now connect to Channel Africa as per our weekly countdown to the G20.
G20 in Africa, exclusive to Channel Africa and SAFM, championing Africa through solidarity, equality, and sustainability.
Well, so many different angles to talk about in the build-up to G20. How about this one, in this collaboration between SAFM and Channel Africa with myself and Tommy Ngubeni? Now, the group of 20, so G20, right, as they continue to seek solutions to migration challenges related to legal pathways, displaced populations and the aging workforce in many member countries, and the new digital visa system we're well aware of, policing and policies addressing foreign national employment and enhanced border security measures being implemented, it's now become even more important to ensure that the voices of those who are mostly impacted by these changes are heard. Tommy?
So true, Ashraf. And one of the things that we cannot change, that this is the new order of the world. Immigration is the status quo, and migrants are key parts of communities and economies around the world. There is the Al-Qabulan Immigrants Impact Awards, the AIIA. They're set to host the Immigration 20, that's the I-20 Summit. This happens over a 2-day period from the 9th to the 10th of October. So that's coming up really, really soon. And they do this to amplify the voices of immigrants as well as refugees in global policy dialogues. And these are voices that are often marginalized and voices that are not often heard. So AIIA says that immigration needs to be positioned as a catalyst for economic growth, social cohesion and sustainable development, and all of this within the G20 framework. For more on this afternoon, we're joined by Debu Gordon Nwajang, the COO and co-owner of the Al-Qabulan Immigrants Impact Awards.
Let's just do that by bringing that first thought around this one here is, it's such an important issue to deal with. So take us through some of the key immigration issues that you would like to highlight in the summit, which effectively I would think reflect some of the most pressing challenges too.
Ashraf, good day and good day to all the listeners of SAFM. So I think for AIIA, the question of migration is something that cannot be neglected at all. We're sitting at about 304 million migrants globally. And when you look at it from a perspective that almost all G20 countries besides India are immigrants receiving countries, it is important for us that as when G20 member states sit around the table, they develop frameworks that would guide how migrant exporting nations get to send their citizens across to their countries. And if they get to do that properly, then you would have less instances of irregular movement of people. You would have less instances of abuse of women and girls in these countries. But more importantly, you would have less instances of where you have strong anti-immigrant sentiments. I think most countries would explain that the immigrant sentiments that get expressed on the street is probably because of not well-managed migration within the G20 member states. So the reason why for us this gathering is important is to showcase, first of all, the value of migration. I mean, if you look at the G20 member states, the migrants contribute almost about $6.4 trillion to GDP. If you were to look at the number of entrepreneurs and CEOs that are from third world countries that are leading corporations in G20 member states, you would be shocked to learn that almost about 80% of the CEOs that sit at the top 100 companies in the world are from migrant nations. So it is important that this potential is harnessed. It is important that this potential is given attention, and also with the increased number of people that are wanting to move around the continent, especially within the African continent, it is important that South Africa really decides how it wants to manage migration. I mean, luckily we have a Minister of Home Affairs that is very proactive, who is actively stating that, listen, migrants add value, but more importantly, that migration needs to be managed in such a way that everybody that is in the country is documented, everybody that is in the country can be identified. So I think for us, the I-20 is all about putting that question on the table and ensuring that migration is not left as a side issue when it's time for elections and campaigns.
And I must say, Teboho, it really is quite an innovative way of looking at the immigration question, because it's not often framed in that particular narrative. And one of the things that you've said, and one of the reasons that you say you've come up with the Immigration 20 Summit, is to amplify the voices of immigrants as well as refugees in global policy dialogues. Do you feel that those voices, the voices of immigrants, of refugees, are not heard in the G20 discussions?
I think the voices are heard to a certain extent, and I think if you look at the work being done by the IOM, the UNHCR, the ISS, so the voices are heard. The voices that are not heard are the voices of migrants that are doing exceptionally well in the countries that they have adopted as their host countries. Take, for example, if you were to look at societies like the US, Canada, Australia, the Middle East, if you look at Saudi Arabia, these are countries that are run mostly on immigrant level. Now, when the question of migration is discussed, sadly, there is no platform that says, yes, migrants add value. Yes, migrants are part and parcel of our economic society, and we should put in place a framework to strengthen social cohesion between the migrant population and the host population. And I think for us, the focus is how do we discuss publicly and appreciate the fact that migrants play an important role, and there should be mechanisms in place that tell average citizens in those countries that we need migrants, we need qualified migrants, and more importantly, we should have framework to welcome refugees, especially those that come from societies that are ravaged by war and abuse.
Well, interesting you use the word mechanisms, because I understand the African peer review mechanism has provided the type of assistance that you need. So tell me about this collaboration and how it may well impact the end goals.
So our work with the African peer review mechanism is based on the fact that they have a very strong interest on the governance of migration. Now, countries like Uganda have done exceptionally well in light of that. So when you go into Uganda, they have a really good framework that allows the refugee population to integrate freely with the local citizens of Uganda. I mean, they are able to do business, they are able to trade freely, they are able to open accounts. So they literally almost become citizens of Uganda, except for the fact that on their documents you would realize that they are refugees. So what is important, I mean, it's funny, I think 2 weeks ago I was watching Sky News, and the questions of migration in the UK was discussed. And one of the panels said, we need to learn from countries that have done this well. We cannot receive migrants and put them in refugee camps or host them in hotels. Migrants should be allowed to work. Refugees that are skilled should be allowed to integrate into industries so that they can be part of the economy. If you receive qualified migrants, you should be able to use them in your own economy and grow your economy. I mean, there is research that says that the migrant group has a high percentage of education than the host populations in G20 member states. So you are literally receiving extremely qualified and dynamic people, and they should be put into use to grow their host local economies.
Tim, I'm quite interested to find out when you actually began the awards. And is this your first meeting? And if so, how are you going to ensure that the outcomes of this meeting are indeed incorporated in the G20 framework that's set to be tabled in November? And I ask this, and if you could, at the back of that, also focus on whether or not this is Afrocentric. Is this immigration issue, quote unquote, used to focus on Africa and Africans, or is this more of a global approach to immigration?
Thank you very much. I think let me tackle your questions. So the I-20 summit is the first time we are doing it, but from an organizational perspective, we've existed since 2023. So we initially started with the award ceremony just to recognize immigrants that are making a positive impact within the communities in South Africa. So as we did that, we then realized that there is a need to do more than just the award, because social cohesion cannot be left to an award ceremony. We then went on to interact with the different migrant groups, and we put together the Global Heritage Festival, where we allow migrant groups to participate in art, in music, in cuisine, so that the average South African can get to interact with the different migrant groups and thereby get to understand exactly where they come from and probably why they're in this country. As for how we are going to ensure that our deliberations at the I-20 get incorporated in the G20. So the Akebo and Immigrant Impact Award has been appointed as a coordinator for the People-to-People Solidarity Working Group within the C20. So it is within that framework that we as the I-20 are putting together the summit. So whatever deliberations, whatever participations takes place within the I-20, we are hoping that those discussions will be captured and then reported to the C20 at the C20 conference within the G20, so that the angle of migration is not left as a side issue.
All right, very well understood. Well, thank you so much for that insight, and really looking forward to seeing what comes out of that, the Immigration Summit that's taking place from the 9th to the 10th of October. All this as a build-up to the big G20 Summit taking place in November.
Right, there we are. We'll do it again next week around 4:15 every Thursday for about 12 minutes or so between myself from the SAFM perspective and then Tami Ngobeni from Channel Africa, all on the road to G20.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Well, what about the road to your name change, if in fact you're going to adopt it, or are you going to throw that out? Here's comments from you.
Hi, Ashraf and the SAFM listeners. South Africa is under attack. Whoever judge who says a man can take a woman's surname, he's promoting the loss of South African cultures. Now we're going to have Abu Kumalo from Nigeria. We're going to have Abu Kumalo of Indians. And then from there, this is a deliberate move to destroy South African culture so that no one can claim South Africa in future, because it will be everyone. So now if you put a Venda surname, if you put a Zulu surname, if you put a Tswana surname, Pedi surname, it's easy to identify this is the original. So they want to kill that.
But I wonder, the assumption that they want to kill it, that if somebody has worked out this plan, as opposed to what is now constitutional, which is in a secular country. South Africa embraces all cultures, all religions, which many other countries don't do. But ultimately what you're forgetting is that it, in fact, is a choice. It's not like suddenly you have to adopt your wife's surname. It's a complete choice. Really, can you see this happening on a widespread scale? Maybe I'm just silly, but I just can't.
Hi, good day, Ashraf and the team there. This is an interesting ruling by the Constitutional Court. According to my culture, I cannot do that. And according to myself as well, I will not do that. Yes, it's unacceptable in our culture. A woman comes to your home, she has to adopt your surname, and as well, she will be under you, as you are the head of the family. Thank you.
Well, I thought you said you will not do that, but the point is you don't. The point is you don't have to do it. I think that's the point. What they simply allowed is you that choice, which maybe you didn't have the choice before, but right now you actually have the choice. And if the majority choose not to go for it, you just get on with your lives.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This law is a violent disrespect of our African culture. There's no way a man will take a woman's surname. For what? Under the disguise of being constitutional. Please don't bring scenarios from Western Europe or Eastern Europe or Asia. No, we cannot copy everything from Eastern Europe or Western Europe. We cannot copy everything. We just have to be African. Why must we dilute our culture? This is utter nonsense. David, Western Cape.
I take it you feel this is very un-African, as you have suggested. More to come. Of course, we're going to hear from you. Of course, more people want to talk about this, and I want to get your calls. You can call in live. You can WhatsApp. If you are going to WhatsApp, 30 seconds, please, right? And you can also tweet as well. Let's get the news headlines. It's 4:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero has made a commitment to residents of Westbury, Coronationville and surrounding areas that water supply will be fully restored in the next 7 days. Police have raided a dagga farm at Camperdown in KwaZulu-Natal Midlands, netting over 4,000 plants and processed dagga with a street value of approximately 30 million rand. And a joint BBC investigation with several other media outlets has found the identities of more than 300 Syrian children of political detainees who were hidden in orphanages by the Assad government during the civil war. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Gous.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand, slow moving towards Samrand Road. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview, queuing on the link to the N12 East at Giluli's Interchange. And the M1 southbound, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. In KZN, on the N11 in Newcastle, there's an overturned tanker at the Amajuba Pass. You are to expect delays and diversions. On the M7, truck congestion reported at South Coast Road, so expect delays, and the N3 southbound queuing towards Key Ridge. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is heavy traffic towards Muway. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road, and Swartklip Road in Khayelitsha is closed. That's between Steve Biko Road and Baden-Powell Drive due to protest action, so please do avoid at all cost. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
All right, Tumi, you've got Orlando Pirates on your mind.
Yes, Orlando Pirates coach Abdeslam Wadu says that the absence of 7 players on international duty during the recent FIFA break did not disrupt the team's preparations for this weekend's MTN 8 final. Pirates take on Stellenbosch FC in a repeat of last year's Wafa Wafa final at the Mbombela Stadium on Saturday at 6 p.m. And for Bafana Bafana games against Lesotho in Nigeria, they had Sipo Chain and Begazile Mbogazi, Talente Mbata, Kamachelo Sebelebele, Oswena Paulus and Relebogile Mufugeng. Dion Hotto was also on duty with Namibia, but Wadu says that they are well prepared for Stellis.
I think it doesn't affect at all our work. It's part of the work of the big clubs, and Orlando Pirates is a big club. We have internationals. I said that we have to deal with it. The main part of the job has been done during the preparation. To teach them the principles, to get the fitness. So I think it's the most important, of course, that we are in touch with them by many ways in order to keep them aware about that event. So they are very close to us, even they are in the national team, but we still in contact with them. Even they are far, they are so close, and we are preparing that event. And we had, like I said, our players here. We are able to work with them. Everybody will be important in that stage.
Elsewhere, the FA has charged Chelsea with 74 breaches of rules regarding agents, intermediaries and third-party investments in players. The charges are primarily focused on transfers between the 2010 and 11 and 2015 and 16 seasons. Now, 3 deals that form part of the investigation involve Eden Hazard, Samuel Eto'o and Willian. Then in cricket, Proteas women all-rounder Sunay Lee says that the team is in good mental state as they embark on the 2025 ICC Women's Cricket World Cup campaign. The Proteas have already departed for India to help acclimatise early as the World Showpiece takes centre stage from the 30th of September. Now, speaking at the national team's official send-off in Johannesburg, Lee says that they have enjoyed a good build-up over the past few months.
Trying to nail your game plans and your training to be World Cup specific. And then we obviously headed to Sri Lanka and West Indies for the 2 series, which was very good for us as well, just to find our roles and game plans and stuff like that. So it's been a very good year of lead up and build up. I think all the girls are in a good space with cricket, a good mental space as well, and I think just the way we're gelling at the moment is also very special to see. Everyone is just enjoying cricket, which I think is very important. So yeah, hopefully it's a very good World Cup for us.
In rugby, New Zealand will look to end South Africa's Rugby Championship title defence on Saturday in a crunch match in Wellington, where both sides have put their faith in raw talent to thrive under pressure. After beating the Springboks 24-17 at Eden Park, the All Blacks lead the table on 10 points and can put the third-place visitors out of contention with 2 rounds to spare. With clearer weather forecast for Saturday night, Robinson has added a touch of flair, starting 22-year-old Noah Hotham at scrum half and picking uncapped Leroy Carter on the wing in place of Reiko. Then in boxing, Canelo Alvarez says that he will deliver a great victory for Mexico when he puts his undisputed super middleweight title on the line. This is against American Terence Crawford on Saturday in Las Vegas. And despite the fight happening on U.S. soil, Alvarez fans are expected to be in the majority at the stadium due to the 4-division world champions' massive popularity among the Nevada city's large Mexican population. Now, Crawford is trying to become the first male boxer to be an undisputed champion in 3 weight classes, and he says that this fight, which will be streamed on Netflix, is definitely going to be the biggest in a decade. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Okay, perfect. And now we're getting back to club football this weekend.
Yes.
Points noted. Absolutely.
The legendary Mamle Tambulu will be on Seasons this Sunday, the 14th of September 2025, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Tune in as Khomotso KG Mwekezi takes us on a journey filled with special moments of nostalgia, reflection, and music. Only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And let's get those numbers with Makwe Masilela. As always, Makwe, good to connect with you. Give it to me, local and global, and some other important results too.
Yeah. First rand, Ashraf, overall group net interest income up 6%, driven by core lending advances, continued customer deposit gathering, capital endowment benefits, and SA residential mortgage remained muted due to continued household pressure, prevailing low property prices, general subdued demand, and the retail vehicle asset finance, however, continued to grow sharply, up 10%, deposit and debt financing, funding up 9%, and their profits and headline earnings per share up 10%, and markets are trading on expectations that the prospect of Fed easing is a certainty, and the only remaining question is by how much, and our Q2 current account deficit widened by more than expected as the rand value of exports decreased amid the lower volumes and the terms of trade worsened, and we are sitting at 1.1% of the GDP. And as widely expected, the European Central Bank left interest rates unchanged, and they will monitor economic data meeting by meeting, just like the US August consumer inflation was in line with expectations. As a result, the knee-jerk reaction was the market bets on an interest rate cut in September were unchanged, and global stocks reached all-time highs. US dollar fell, with bonds rallying on speculation of the first US interest rate cut this year come next next week, and oil prices pressured by concerns over softening U.S. demand and broad oversupply that offset threats to output from the conflict in the Middle East and also Russia-Ukraine war. Brent crude is down 1.6% at $66 a barrel, and the yellow metal regained earlier losses and consolidating as opportunity cost of holding it will be less when interest rates gets to be reduced. Gold is flat now at 3,637. Platinum is down 0.1% at 1,391, and the global markets continuing to advance with the JSE up 0.4%, and we've been led by our financials, and the rand firmed 1.3% against the dollar. We are sitting now at 17.41, and against the pound is 23.62, against the euro 20.44.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that. Makwe will connect again tomorrow, but don't forget 6 to 7. It's Jimmy Moyaha in the hot seat. 1 hour of an in-depth analysis of the markets in South Africa and all around the world.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right now, the SABC is proud to partner with Africa's biggest marketing conference. It's called the Nedbank IMC, right? So on one day, 25 top speakers, 6 of them global keynote speakers. The theme this year is marketing is business. So anyone in the business of communications should be there, right? So when is all this happening? The 18th of September, in person in Joburg, or you can follow it online too. Book now at imcconference.com, imcconference.com. If you didn't know it, you know it now. Marketing is business.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
We're going to talk about a significant development regarding e-hailing. We'll talk about that next. We'll chat to the Commission for Gender Equality coming up after 5. We'll chat to Helen Ziller as well about 20 past 5. Every reason for you to be absolutely connected to the National Pulse.
Ashraf, good afternoon. My name is Saratin Limpopo. Tell me, Ashraf, now what will the child or children of that couple, what will they use as their surname? Are they going to use that double barrel surname? If yes, now when they are going to get married, so they are going to have another double barrel surname, which means they will have the first double barrel and another double barrel for their marriage, for instance. I just want to understand how. Or well, I understand that is a choice, yeah, but I just want clarity there.
Okay, tell you what. In error, that one did not delete. We played it twice. So double-barreled WhatsApp voice note from you, and I detected your chuckle when you asked the God what's going to happen next.
Ashraf and the SA Feminism. Ashraf, can you please just tell these police that they must differentiate between the thugs and the protesters? The protesters who voted like the government in and who just fighting for the basic need water. Why should they just coming and then shooting at the people? That Tata Morero is sitting on the nice offices and enjoying everything from the taxpayer. Then he just sending the police. Then when they arrive in there, they just started to shoot. No,
okay, differentiate. I would have thought they would know that anyway. I mean, that would be part of your training, isn't it?
Afternoon, Ashraf. I will never. Fortunately, I will not marry again unless it's for economic purpose to appease the would-be my wife if she has a lot of money. I will remain cultural man, even if they say we are in a patriarchal society, we don't want to change. Some things change, others will never change. Thank you, Ashraf, Leviticus from Mafikeng.
Okay, you sound pretty chilled about all of this. Thank you for that. What about the Steve Biko case?
The Steve Biko case, it's been 30 years of freedom. Now it's 48 years since his death. I'm just asking myself that in the whole 30 years that we've been in charge as the current government, why did we not reopen it in the first 5 years or the first 10 years? How many of those people that were involved in this murder of Biko are still around? And how much of this evidence has been lost through the course of time? something is not right with this government of ours.
We'll find out more about the reopening of the case, and that's what Helen Ziller, by the way, will be talking about. And she's got an interesting link to that Steve Biko case, by the way, right? Okay, next up, we're going to talk about changes to e-hailing. You better listen.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, so there's some deadlines here. From tomorrow, the law governing e-hailing service in South Africa will be gazetted and then to be implemented for implementation tomorrow, right? And there are issues. In fact, there's a few important bullet points that you need to note. Let me do this. Let's get to speak to the Secretary of the E-Hailing Partners Council. That's Melitema Mnguni. I appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. Right, so tell me about this. I mean, in terms of what has been gazetted or what will be gazetted, what is significant from the position of e-hailing services in South Africa now to how they will be viewed and regulated tomorrow?
Look, this is something that we should be appreciating as the e-hailers. Unfortunately, that's not the case. This is something that we have waited for a long time for regulation. But there is little to take home and appreciate about the new regulations. One thing that we would appreciate is that now e-hailing are going to get their own operating licenses, contrary to what has been happening where we're being issued charter service and meter taxis, which was also causing sort of clashes with the meter tax criteria and that they could control e-hailers. But on the other side, they are exposing us. We've been here at the show speaking about the issues of safety. You've seen recently what has happened, the attack, the torching of cars that has happened. And now they are coming to say we need to have our cars branded, which exposes us to those that have been attacking e-hailers. It's a serious concern. And this comes because we could not participate during the drafting of these regulations. We only participated later, and we raised these concerns around the branding of vehicles, and they were not considered clearly. But another issue that will bound both passengers and us as the e-hailers is the issue of restrictions, where they are saying now you need to take a trip from Midrand, and then when you go to Pretoria, you have to come back to Midrand. That adds a running cost to operators, meaning that the prices will now have to go up for the passengers. And already we were complaining about the prices being unprofitable, and they are adding this burden. So there are these issues that are concerning for us.
Okay, so let's get to the first of all. If I understand it, up to now we've had like traditional taxi laws that govern e-hailing. Now you're saying there are absolute there's e-hailing laws very, very specific to your industry, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, indeed. Yes.
Okay. Then you mentioned 2-3 other issues. So which are the issues you are, as the e-hailing industry, you're supportive of, and which ones are you concerned about to the point that you'd want to oppose it? You mentioned the branding. I know that, yeah.
Yes, the branding is huge. It puts us at a risk. So we are totally opposed to that. If you look at the application itself, the profile already, when you request an e-hailing vehicle as a passenger, it already gives you all the information that you need. We have got what is called operator card, the double disc. It identifies an e-hailing car as a transport service. What we had proposed, contrary, was the stickers rather than having the branding on the vehicles. And the stickers are quite popular already within the
But I mean, surely the motivation, because I have always wondered, you mentioned the point about security. I mean, clearly that's a policing issue that they must deal with. And I understand the fact that there's been attacks on e-hailing drivers, but that is an issue that policing must deal with. I've always wondered, why would e-hailing drivers, taxis, not be branded when other taxis would be branded? Surely you often get a situation when somebody's parked outside your house and you don't know who it is and say, oh, that's an Uber driver. Like, surely it's good that it's branded.
No, that's not the case, Ashraf. The taxis are not branded. They do have a sticker, not branding. Unless if they have pronounced it as branding, but they mean the sticker. The minibus taxis have got a sticker. The meter taxis did not have the branding or the stickers. What they did, they used to have a cone. And that cone is what you put when you are looking for trips so that clients can identify you. Once you get a trip, you take it off and then you drive off. So what they are saying here, it is written as branding, not stickers. Hence, we have proposed stickers which will have the details of the operator of the vehicle.
Okay, either way, I mean, it's basically saying that the commuter will identify by a tag whether that car is an e-hailing car, which they were not able to identify up to now, right?
Yes, they were not. Actually, there isn't even that much of a need because we are creating a situation where Ashraf might not have to request me through the app but approach my car, which causes animosity from the minibus taxis and from the meter taxis, where they are saying that you are no longer using the platform. You are no longer e-hailing, but now you are hiking people into your vehicles. We've already had issues where they are complaining that there are other drivers that are hiking and touting for passengers. We've already had incidents like that. When you request via the app. And when we've spoken about issues of safety, they are introducing the panic button. It's already there on the app. It's been there for many years. And in most cases, we've said it has gotten a lot of drivers killed because when you press it, the next thing that happens is that the security call room calls you back. And once it calls you back, it irritates the criminals. And then that's when they attack you. So they are continuing to introduce that. When we have said, let's have proactive measures where everyone is verified, both the passengers and the drivers on the platforms. So when someone logs in on the platform, they are already verified. Whenever they commit a crime, they are able to be traced back. We have seen the fruitful results of that on the Uber platforms compared to the other platforms like Bolt and InDriver who don't verify.
All right, let's leave it at that. Melithemba Mnguni, the Secretary of the E-Hailing Partners Council. Fascinating thing. That's not the only thing, in terms of the identification. There's issues around costs and registration costs and who's going to carry all that. I've always wondered, if I look at the Checker 60, how can't taxi drivers also have the branding on their cars? I mean, think about it, and get paid advertising for that. Why not?
Spar brings you super savings. Get 500ml Monster Energy Drink, any two for 28 Rand, and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 80-gram Cadbury Chocolate Slabs, any two for 32 Rand, and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 22 September 2025. While stocks last. T's and C's apply.
When you're smiling, on 19th September, wear your favorite socks to school or work and help spread smiles to children across South Africa. The sun comes shining through. Get your Socks for Smile sticker today at smilefoundation.co.za because every sticker helps fund life-changing surgeries for children in need. Smile Foundation. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
So what are you going to talk about, Charlie Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk? E-hailing, as we've just discussed, the issues around the surname ruling that I can now, if I choose to, want to move from Ashraf Garda to Ashraf Garda Kassem, because Kassem is my wife's surname originally. Wow. Would you do the same thing? Let's get your thoughts. Spa in Durban. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you're live.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Go for
Yes,
it.
sir.
Yeah.
I'd like to speak about actually it's three things in one. The first thing is that taxis do have wrapping advertised on them. The few taxis that have like Pep stores and Aromaty around the city. Make sure you notice them.
Well, not enough. I mean, I don't see it prevalent around across all these. No, I don't mean taxis. I'm talking about e-hailing. Like, why would they not do a deal? What prevents them from doing that? So you can get, because that'll be the driver of the car, right? Can't an advertising agency, a marketer get involved with them? And just possibly they haven't.
Like,
Yeah.
access to knowledge also, Ashraf. Access to knowledge. But onto the more important topic, it actually saddens me that it's mostly been black men. Unfortunately, I hate to speak racially, but black men that are complaining about this name change thing that's happening at the Constitutional Court.
Yeah. Why does it sadden you?
Because, I mean, us as black men are burdened by the GBV thing. I mean, women feel disempowered around us in a major, major way. So, I mean, we should just give them a chance to see how they manage and mold a new way of living through this. I mean, 90 to 95% of the comments I've heard today about this have been mostly black men complaining. It's really unfair that black women have to take another strain from a thing that could like boost them, give them 10 more years in the inequality barrier that they're trying to get through.
Okay.
Women just get more rights that support them. They could benefit more.
All right, I hear you, Spa. Thanks for that. I tell you what, let me put this to you. If you're a female listening in, and you're aware of these Concord changes now that will allow you and your husband to agree that he must adopt your surname as part of his surname, like a double-barrel surname. What do you feel about it? As a woman, I'm talking to you directly. Yes, you, the woman, not the male, the woman. Dr. Zani in Alberton, hello.
Yes, thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon to SA listeners.
Yeah, thank you. What's your point?
Ashraf. Yes, Ashraf, you know what is my concern in regard to this judgment is that it amounts to the alteration of black people and African cultures in totality. We expect a constitutional court to interpret the law and apply the law within the context of how we as people live. But I can't identify any African that lives in accordance with what the interpretation of this judgment entails. That is a problem. And furthermore, Ashraf, it will affect the culture in a way that now if a man has to change a surname, the alteration that will occur in our family tree will become unacceptable in our own African cultures and our own way of living. And people did not vote.
But wait, he's not changing the full surname. He's just adding, another name to his name.
Yes, but you see now, there's nothing in African culture, in African way of living, something like a parent surname, whereby someone can have two surnames. It's not known in the way in which we live as Africans. And we expect our Constitutional Court to interpret the laws within the way in which we live, not against the way we live. We didn't vote for the Constitutional Court to change laws. We vote for the Constitutional Court to assist with the interpretation of the law. If this was coming as an act coming from the Parliament, we're going to be afforded an opportunity to have a say in terms of public hearings and so on. But now here is a court just taking a decision that change the way we as Africans live.
Okay.
I have the view that it is not fair. It's actually a judiciary overreach for the Constitutional Court.
So what do you plan to do about it? Let's say you. What are you planning to do about it?
There's nothing we can do, Ashraf, except writing articles and criticize it like all other court judgments as we have done before. Because one of the challenges we have in our democratic South Africa is that the decisions of the Constitutional Court, they don't have another avenue to be challenged. If you remember, before 1994, we had appellate divisions, and the appellate divisions, their decisions were challenged interchangeably by different appellate division from different provinces that assisted us to have a balance in our law. Now this court is like becoming a parliament that its decision cannot be challenged and they're final. And we don't have
I don't know if you say it can't be challenged. I mean, Thokozani, I got that. If you read what we said early on, the Concord has decided that at this point in time, the current law as it stands is unconstitutional. They believe that, in fact, the men who choose to have to adopt their wife's surname should be allowed to do so. And in fact, there's a 2-year period now for you to object to that. So there is recourse, and then we'll see what happens after that, until you get this final ruling on that one. Thokozani, let's leave it at that. You've made your point and expressed your concerns, right? Let's get to see some other. There's another WhatsApp we can play as well. Okay, in fact, before that, let's just do this. We're talking about the Concord ruling, right? So let's just be very clear about it. That relates to what husbands can and cannot do. This is the ruling.
Court of South Africa, Free State Division, Bloemfontein, is confirmed. 2. Section 26(1)(a) to C of the Births and Deaths Registration Act 51 of 1992 is declared unconstitutional to the extent that, in violation of Section 9(1) of the Constitution, it violates irrationally on the ground of gender, and to the extent that, in violation of Section 9(3) of the Constitution, it unfairly discriminates on the ground of gender by failing to afford a woman the right to have her spouse assume her surname, failing to afford a man the right to assume the surname of the woman after marriage, failing to allow for a married or divorced man or widower to resume a surname which he bore at any time, and failing to allow a man, whether married or divorced or a widower, to add to the surname which he assumed after the marriage any surname which he bore at any prior time. 3. The declaration of invalidity is suspended for a period of 24 months to enable Parliament to remedy the defects by either amending the existing legislation or passing new legislation.
Okay, that hopefully will clear that up. But of course, we'll get further reaction from the Commission for Gender Equality in a moment. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you. In this news update, Joburg Mayor makes commitment to demonstrating residents and police raid at Dagga Farm in KZN. Good day to you. The Johannesburg Mayor Dante Morelos made a commitment to residents of Westbury, Coronationville and surrounding areas that water supply will be fully restored in the next 7 days. Since the early hours of yesterday, disgruntled residents there have been taking to the streets, protesting against an ongoing water outage in the area. They say for the last several years they've been experiencing water cuts on an almost daily basis. The mayor addressed the residents at a community hall in Coronationville.
The program that we're involved in, we are making a definite commitment that with all the interventions that we are going to be doing here, at least in the next 7 days, you'll have full supply of water on the 7th day. To get the levels high, it means we need another 7 days. But we are saying to you, over and above, we are going to try in the next 2 days to switch off other areas at night to try and push the water to reduce that 7 days.
Earlier, the Gauteng Police Commissioner, Tommy Mtombeni, said he ordered that officers not use excessive force against demonstrating residents in Westbury and Coronationville. He's called for calm between residents and the police and on the community to cooperate with officers. Yesterday, several people sustained rubber bullet wounds during the protest by residents. Police have raided a Dagga farm at Camperdown in KwaZulu-Natal, netting more than 4,000 plants in processed Dagga with a street value of approximately 30 million rand. Hawk spokesperson, Simpiwe Mhlongo, says they arrested a man and also confiscated numerous firearms. He says the man is charged with the cultivation and dealing in cannabis, as well as the unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition.
He was found in possession of 6 firearms, including 1 shotgun and 3 rifles, as well as 2 pistols. they were seized and would be forwarded to a ballistic testing to ascertain if they were used in the commission of any other crime in the country.
2 kidnappers have been sentenced to 25 years in prison in connection with the 2023 hijacking of a man outside a nightclub in Durban. They were found guilty on charges of hijacking, kidnapping and attempted murder in the Durban Regional Court. The court found the victim was kidnapped outside a nightclub in Cato Manor. 5,000 rand was withdrawn from the victim's bank account, and the kidnappers demanded a ransom of 50,000 rand. They were then caught 5 days later. Further afield, a joint BBC investigation with several other media outlets has found the identities of more than 300 Syrian children of political detainees who were hidden in orphanages by the previous government of Bashar al-Assad during the country's civil war. The investigation found the organisation running orphanages that took the most children was the Austrian-based SOS Children's Villages International, which operates in more than 130 countries worldwide. Whistleblowers from SOS said most of its senior positions were appointed directly by the Assad regime. The top story, the Joburg Mayor has made a commitment to residents of Westbury, Coronationville and surrounding areas that water supply will be fully restored in the next 7 days. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Goos.
In sports, the Sawa stage is set for exciting Currie Cup semi-finals. Proteas women in good mental state ahead of 2025 ICC World Cup campaign, and Simbini declares himself ready for his biggest weekend in Tokyo. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Centurion has a crash near John Foster Drive. The N1 northbound in Pretoria, a crash before the N4 Bakwena Highway exit, and on Winnie Mandela Drive northbound in Four Ways, a crash at the N1 highway. In KZN, the M7 westbound queuing towards Belleville Road exit, the N2 northbound, a stationary vehicle before the M41 Gateway exit, and on the N11 in Newcastle, an overturned tanker reported at Amajuba Pass. The roadways blocked, causing some serious delays. In Cape Town, Swartklip Road in Khayelitsha is closed between Steve Biko Road and Baden-Powell Drive due to protest action. Baden-Powell Drive eastbound queuing towards Strandfontein Road, and the N1 outbound queuing towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
EFC's heavyweight title fight is live this Thursday. Elvis Moyo, the legend, a name whispered in the halls of greatness.
Elvis is the heavyweight champion of the EFC.
Now stands on the edge of his greatest enemy, Mutunga Jikasa. Triple H enters the Hex with a score to settle. Now, redemption is on the line. EFC is live this Thursday from the World Sports Betting Arena. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. This Heritage Month, SAFM invites you to journey into the past while shaping the future under the theme Reimagine Our Heritage Institutions for a New Era. We celebrate the stories, traditions, and voices that define who we are as a nation. From vibrant conversations to thought-provoking debates, SAFM is where heritage meets innovation, connecting generations and keeping our culture alive in a changing world. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, we should be connecting with the spokesperson for the Commission for Gender Equality. I'll just tell you now, by the way, the mayor of Joburg, Dada Morero, as you know, he's been addressing the people from the communities of just outside of Nuclear. I'm talking about Coronationville and Westbury and Newlands. And that meeting has been disrupted and he had to be whisked away. Community members very angry. That meeting itself ended into chaos, descended into chaos. But the key commitment he made, and make of it what you will, and I'm not too sure whether the commitment is to that community or to all others in the city of Joburg. And the commitment was, you will get water in 7 days. Like, I really don't know how one can respond to that. Like, it's a promise, you will get water in 7 days. So do you celebrate the fact that in 7 days you will get water or not? Yeah, lots to consider there. You can certainly add your thoughts. We'll chat to Helen Ziller just now regarding the reopening of the Steve Biko inquest. But for now, we've got Jabo Baloy with me, the spokesperson for the Commission for Gender Equality. Appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the wonderful listeners of SAFM.
Thank you. Now, we talk to you at a time where, as you know, the Constitutional Court has ruled that Section 26(1) of the Registration of Births and Deaths Act is unconstitutional as it unfairly discriminates on the basis of gender. That means now that men can assume the surnames of their wives. They can add it to their surname, which I understand was not the case before, right? So, first things first, from where you sit as the Commission for Gender Equality, what do you make of it?
The Commission for Gender Equality, Ashraf, welcomes the judgment as handed down today. We believe it's very progressive in nature, and we are also we are not oblivious to the fact that this might not address the issues of gender substantive equality. We are also aware for years that, marriage on its own has been in a patriarchal nature, whereby inherently women were obligated by society and societal norms and values to take the man's surname. But this is a progressive, it's an educative moment for us as a country to say, look, we have the surname, and anyone can choose to use a surname which they feel comfortable with. We also brought the issue as a commission to say we are aware men who take their wife's surname might be frowned upon by society. Other men are like to say, you are a weak man, you have taken your wife's surname, why should you do something like that who is being married in the relationship? Equally so, Ashraf, while I was talking to my CEO, Dr. Matotoka, we were talking about a briefing session. We discussed the issue of men who want to go and claim maintenance because men are also allowed to claim maintenance. Some of them are being laughed at. And this is something that society must be a moment of reflection to say, in order for us to raise the issues of, address the issue of patriarchy and address issues of equality, we need to have educative moments. We need to have awareness. We also need to understand that it will take years for us to eradicate society of certain stereotypes that are embedded in there. Because, stereotypes which are embedded in norms and values in people. It takes forever to eradicate. We rather educate, and we'll do that in our corner. And we appreciate what has been done at the Constitutional Court today.
All right, let's go back. I mean, so do you believe that up to now that the current situation as it stood was in fact discriminatory?
Yes, it was very much discriminatory, not only to women, also to the LGBTQIA plus persons. When they want to change their surnames, they found it very difficult when they're in a marriage situation to change their surname because the act was specific. Home Affairs was giving them difficulties. It was discriminatory to say, why should it be a woman who opts to change their surname, not a man to change their surname? So on that lens, we realized it's somehow discriminatory. Yet we know we are going to be facing a backlash. Men are going to be facing a backlash. We know some men already, like the late Don Mlangeni, had taken his wife's surname. He had it he was using it, the surname of the wife, to say, I am a progressive man, I can use my wife's surname also. We know these men who have done that, they've gone to Supreme Court, they've gone to Constitutional Court, because they have the intention, not only for themselves, but for society at large, to say it shouldn't be a burden for women. Women shouldn't be a burden to change their surname. It was discriminatory in a way, and we're hoping that society and people alike and other institutions will help us as a commission to educate others in order for them to understand the genesis of this and the rationale of this.
So I mean, we'll talk about the cultural aspects next, but let's just understand it from a constitutional point of view. You just referred to a person who already progressively adopted his wife's surname because he chose to. So in fact, it was allowed then. And what has been the change now compared to what you voluntarily chose to adopt in the past?
What changes now? It's the mindset of us in a cultural way and traditional way to say, should I get married today at Ashraf? My wife, by my family and everyone in my community, expect my wife to be called Mrs. Baloyi without any doubt. Should she stick to her surname? It was frowned upon. It was seen as disrespect. It was seen as not blended with the family in which is married to. Second to that, it was seen that a man automatically he has to remain with his surname and hence not changing it. That's why this judgment, it says those men who are willing and are willing to change their surname to their wife and adopt the second surname or adopt their wife's last name, it's fine by it, and it won't be any interest. Home Affairs will also have to oblige with this judgment because it is there. It's constitutionally proven today. It can be done.
Okay, let's talk about, first of all, even in terms of this ruling, there's a 2-year window to challenge it, right? So fine, let the law take its course there. But you've already made the point that you're expecting huge cultural pushback. So when you get that pushback as the Commission for Gender Equality, what would be your ammunition to fight against it?
Our ammunition has been one thing for sure. We always get people on our side and impress on them the rationale. The issue is not to fight back. The issue it's that, hence I said earlier on, Ashraf, it's an educative moment, it's an empowering moment, because remember the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa says anything which is not in line with the Constitution and is inconsistent with the Constitution is deemed unconstitutional. So we need to also make the traditional cultural experts and others alike, and because we work closely with them and we rely on them, so that we make them understand, and we're very grateful. Almost all the cultural and traditional leadership, the chiefs, the indunas, they are au fait with the gendered issues. They work with the commission. Some of them will sign memorandum of understanding. We will go to them and make them serious in a constitutional way. Because remember, we have got the mandate to achieve, but yet we do it, we persuade one another, we lobby them for them to understand, as a Commission for Gender Equality, what is at stake, what the spin-off of this, what can be done to enhance the gendered agenda and discourse in our country as a Commission for Gender Equality, so that tomorrow we're not only doing for ourselves, but for for the generation to come.
Well, I mean, there's been a couple of things already we've had from in terms of how would the ancestors, and I'm talking about different cultures here, right? How would the ancestors view this, number one? But then the issue you referred to in terms of Ilobolo, in terms of, we've already had people saying, one of the primary factors is a name change in terms of, let's call it that payment that's received. And this threatens the very structure of these type of, not just negotiations, but cultural norms.
Yes, I hear that. And to put a spin to the words of what you have said, one was I heard someone on radio, another radio station saying, what then happens to a man who is in a polygamous relationship? That will take itself, because when the manner in which the judgment came, they're looking at the relationship of one person where lobola has been done, because those are the things that when we sit down, after reading the judgment intensively, after scrutinizing everything else, we will be able, and when we prepare our programs, we will tailor-make them in order to address that impediment. Anything that will be hindrance, we'll deal with it accordingly as a committee to say, how do we navigate these waters as a commission? When it comes to the issues of lobola, those things will be dealt with, because remember, when we got the judgment today, we had to scrutinize in order to see what is our view on this as a commission, because all along we have been monitoring the case. So those are the things that, we'll sit down as a collective, as a commission, to say, how do we tailor-make our educational program for us also to look at the culture, because we don't frown on cultural and traditional things. We want them to be part of the cultural dispensation. And in that way, we are able to lobby them, we are able to reach out to societies that are culturally inclined to push back on the judgment which was handed down today.
Okay, just the last thing then, and I know we're speculating here, but so there's this 2-year window period for objections. How do you think, or what do you think will be the scenario 2 years from now?
The scenario is that, now we are seeing people warming up. The scenario could be that this is my personal view, not the commission's view. The scenario is that there will be cultural people that, will have a pushback, and some of them will also maybe put the issues at hand to say, look, this can't be done based on culture. There will be cultural experts who will lobby against this. So we do not know, but there will also be gender activists who will come forward to say, this is more progressive, this is why we're supposed to support it. Also, Home Affairs has to be roped in and get to realize the benefits of us doing this. Because remember, also, we are not saying that this will stop the gender-based violence in intimate partner violence in the home, but it will go a long way in order to change the mindset of society at large.
Okay, and that's where we can leave it to Jabu Baloyi, the spokesperson for the Commission for Gender Equality. Now, you've heard his thoughts, you've heard the earlier position from Professor Musa Xulu, and you can make up your own mind about it, but listen to those podcasts, both of them, in fact, and tell me what you think, or share that over supper when you speak to your family, as I would expect you would be doing. We speak to Helen Ziller next.
Power, land, loyalty, blood. In the heart of Montana, the fight for the Dutton Ranch is far from over. Betrayals cut deep, enemies close in, and every choice could be their last. Yellowstone, Season 4, where family is everything and nothing is off limits. Every Tuesday, starting September 2nd at 7 p.m., only on S3. S3, open up. S3. The past never stays buried. Secrets resurface and the truth demands to be found. This season, every clue matters. Every silence hides a story, and every revelation could shatter lives forever. Unforgotten, Season 4. A gripping drama where justice is never simple and the past is never truly gone. Starts 8th September at 9 p.m. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, only on S3. Open up. S3.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. The Weekend View with Bongiwe Zwane. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Moeketsi. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Sundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Gericka. Shifting your lens with Bertha Charuma. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
You know, I mean, this point needs to be made so that people understand it, right? That the mayor of Joburg effectively being whisked away from that briefing with the people because there's this high level of dissatisfaction. But he made the point, particularly to the community of, Westbury, Claremont, Nuclear and surrounds at Coronationville, that they will get their water. They will get their water back in 7 days as a commitment. Now, there's maybe sarcasm in my voice when I say that. You can make of that what you will. But interestingly, he also made the point that that would mean redirecting water, particularly at night, from other communities. Now, many of the other communities are also struggling, not so much 10, 12 days without water, but they're struggling. They don't have water either. It may come and go intermittently. But he's talking about a redirecting, like a load shedding. You take away from one and give to another. I wonder how that's going to play out, right? In the meantime, historic, I think, in many ways, the NPA's decision to reopen the inquest into the death of the anti-apartheid activist and Black Consciousness Movement leader, Stephen Bantu Biko. So naturally, there's been reaction, I think, all day in terms of that, in terms of why the need to reopen that inquest. What's been missing from all of that? Helen Zille, interestingly enough, of course, we all know as the chairperson of the DA's Federal Council now, but she's had a career as a journalist and at the time played a very prominent role within the Rand Daily Mail in exposing the truth surrounding Biko's death in that period. So with me then is Helen Zille. Appreciate your time and thanks for connecting to us on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf. It's good to be joining you and your listeners.
Much appreciated. So when you heard that this inquest will be reopened, it's an interesting one. You may sit on a political platform, but you've also had this career as a journalist, but you're a citizen. So you look at it in a way that probably none of us can relate to very, very differently. What was your reaction?
Yes, I'm very pleased that the inquest has been reopened. I thought the last one was a travesty. A lot of evidence was submitted. A lot of evidence around how Steve Biko, unconscious and manacled and naked, with only a blanket in the back of a police van, was driven from Port Elizabeth to Tshwane, and where he died. And it was clear that he'd been absolutely brutally beaten and assaulted, had extreme brain damage, and never regained consciousness. And that was clear from the evidence, and yet the policemen who'd been with him were not found culpable and liable for his death, even under dolus eventualis, because if you beat someone to that extent, you've got to expect that they're going to die. They tried to say that he'd knocked his own head against the wall in a scuffle, which frankly was clearly unsustainable as an argument. And at the end of that long period, with Sidney Kentridge doing a very good job of cross-examining and drawing out the evidence, the magistrate, I remember he was Martinez Prince, ended up by saying, well, no one can be found responsible for his death, which was so obviously a preordained finding, because you couldn't link it with what you'd actually heard there in the inquest. And so I'm very pleased that even after all these years, I think it's almost 40 years now, the truth will out.
And you're convinced the truth will out. Perhaps just tell us about your own testimony in terms of the piece that you wrote, because it was pivotal, I think, at that time. So maybe just a bit more insight into what you knew in terms of the expose that you delivered.
Well, originally you will recall that Jimmy Kruger, who was the then Minister of Justice, said that Biko had died after going on a hunger strike. And his insinuation was that Biko had starved himself to death. Now, we knew that couldn't have happened because Biko was a very big man. He was even slightly overweight. He was detained, I think, on the Monday or the Sunday, and by the next Tuesday, he was dead. On the 12th of September, 1977. So he couldn't have died of a hunger strike. We knew that was a lie immediately. That was a complete lie. And we had to try and find out the reasons. And we went all over looking for sources. I interviewed all the police that had been involved with him if they were prepared to see me. Most of them weren't. I interviewed all the doctors who were also unprepared to see me, but I just hounded them. I went to their houses. I went to their places of work. And eventually I got some interviews with some of the doctors, but the pivotal breakthrough was with Jonathan Gluckman. Jonathan Gluckman was, in fact, the pathologist that appeared at the Lake Skowing. What's that in English? It's the post-mortem for the family, and appeared there, and in fact said that it was quite clear he died of brain damage because there were blood cells in his spinal column, and we got his report, which he gave us under pain of complete confidentiality. And then we were able to write a lot of, we were able to write that expose, yes.
All right. I mean, there's a very good chance you're going to be called up again, right? What for you would be the outcome that this case deserves?
Well, it's going to be under very difficult circumstances because, of course, the three policemen who were most clearly responsible, one was a guy called Snyman. I'll remember that his name was Snyman. Might have even been something like Henning Snyman. And then there was one called Gideon Nieuwoud. And then there was another one. I think they're all dead now. So it's very, very difficult when people are dead to cross-examine them, obviously. And what they need to do is go through the absolute record of all of the submissions that were made in the original inquest in Tshwane, in Pretoria, it was called at the time, at the old synagogue there, and look at that evidence and see if that evidence aligns with the findings, and they will find that it does not. I almost wrote that case verbatim because we almost ran it verbatim in the Rand Daily Mail. I took just piles and piles and piles of verbatim shorthand notes of that inquest, and eventually we published them. So if they didn't keep a recording, which I'm sure they had to, there's the old records in the newspaper that we ran almost verbatim. And you can see what happened there. So I think what one has to do is go into the record, get all the medical evidence together, get all the records of the cross-examination, and see whether the finding of the inquest had any relationship at all with what was told to the magistrate, Martinus Prince. Then there's also the application by those policemen for amnesty under the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I don't know if you remember that, but they applied for amnesty and they were denied amnesty. Now, they obviously put stuff on the table and said, okay, we were involved in a fight, we did hit him, all the stuff they tried to deny in the inquest by saying, no, he'd hit his head against a wall, etc., etc. They came up with stuff, but they were denied amnesty because of the view that the full story was not being told. So how after their death you're going to get the full story? And of course, Steve Biko isn't alive anymore and hasn't been since that ghastly time. Getting to the truth is now much more difficult, but I do think we'll get much closer to the truth if they do a proper job.
Okay, well, let's get closer to the truth now, right? Just a last thought. I know this was not part of the plan, but just if you have a thought on this one, two things maybe in 30 seconds. The Concourt ruling that husbands now can take their wives' last names and the massive water disruptions in Joburg. Just your thoughts on that, if you can.
Well, that's really nice if you've got a terrible surname as a husband and you want to change it. It's nice for you. It's nice for your children, and it's good. Why not take the surname of either party that you both most like? I think it's a very clever name, a very clever thing. I mean, you know, we've got some weird names in my family, which I really wouldn't like to be lumped with. So I think that all the men wouldn't like to be lumped with them either, who've got those names and would like to choose their wives' names.
Okay, that's the one. Just your quick thoughts on those massive water disruptions in the city of Joburg.
Well, I'm not surprised that people get completely enraged when they haven't got water for days and days and days. And I've been reading as much as I can about the history of that, and a lot has to do with a place called Slovoville, where a lot of the fire hydrants have been broken and people are tapping into water illegally and wrecking the system and leaving no water for the legitimate residents who are paying their bills. Now, those kinds of things must be dealt with. But there are also things that very strongly need to be fixed in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the reservoirs, in terms of the pipelines, in terms of all of those sorts of things. So it's a complex combination of neglect, government failure, vandalism, and theft. And to fix it, you're going to need a whole of society approach there.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Helen Zille, chairperson of the DA's Federal Council, but in fact a personal journalist who covered the Steve Biko story extensively at the time of his death in the 70s. Much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Delayed news headlines. Here's Greg Host.
Look at the headlines. 4 house robbery suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Centurion. The Joburg mayor has made a commitment to residents of Westbury and Coronationville that their water supply will be fully restored in 7 days. And the FBI says it's recovered a high-powered rifle agents believe was used to kill Conservative activist Charlie Kirk. A full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 R24 westbound in Bedfordview, queuing on both routes towards Giluli's interchange. Bears Nordia Drive northbound in Melville, queuing at Thomas Bowler Street, and on the R55 in Centurion, ramp closure reported, so no access to the N14 East due to a police incident, so expect delays. In KZN, on the N11 in Newcastle, an overturned tanker reported at Amajuba Pass. The roadway is blocked, and that's causing some delays. The N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale, and the M7 westbound queuing towards Belleville Road exit. In Cape Town, the R300 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway exit, Robert Sobukwe Road in Modadam queuing at 35th Avenue, and Marine Drive outbound in Tableview, slow moving towards Dolphin Beach. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Sumi, you've got so much to talk about. I'll leave it to you to set the agenda.
Yes, the stage is set for exciting Currie Cup semi-finals, and Sanlam Boerland Cavaliers coach Howie Sferi says that there's been little time to dwell on their 40-22 defeat to Western Province at DHL Stadium, with all focus now on Saturday's Culling Black Label Currie Cup semi-final against the Lions. Now, Fourie admits that their second half performance was below par, but believes that they've addressed the shortcomings in training this week.
We trained at a higher intensity and lifted the standards. Satisfied with how things went up to now. We know it will be a tough ask against the Lions. They got a very strong side, playing quality rugby and scoring a lot of tries. So it will be important for us to defend well and to be sharp on the day.
Meanwhile, Springbok woman captain Nolusindi Sobwe will return to lead her team in Saturday's historic Women's Rugby World Cup quarter-final against New Zealand, as head coach Suez de Bruyn made 10 changes to the starting lineup that faced France last weekend. The experienced lock, who was rested for the France encounter, headlines a team featuring 7 players who last saw action in the crucial victory over Italy that secured South Africa's first ever World Cup quarter-final berth. In a bold tactical move, De Bruyn has also opted for a 7-1 forward to back split on the bench, with utility back Alois Webb providing the only backline cover for what promises to be the biggest match in Springbok women's history. In football, Orlando Pirates captain Nkosinathi Sibisi insists that he is not under pressure to win his first trophy as the club's captain, as they take on Stellenbosch in the MTN 8 final at Mbombela Stadium on Saturday at 6 p.m. Sibisi has declared himself fit and ready for selection ahead of the Wafa Wafa decider after missing the side's last 6 matches across the league and the MTN 8 due to an unspecified injury.
good to be back. You know, it's never easy whenever you're injured. And, you know, in terms of being ready for selection, yeah, I'm ready for selection, you know. I've been training with the guys, so yeah, it's good to be back. And, you know, with regards to Mbogazi captaining the team, I think he did a fantastic job. You know, for him to lead such a big institution, you know, at his young age, and to do the things that he's been doing, you know, not only for Orlando Pirates, but also for the national team. So it can only get better from here, you know, and I say kudos to him for being able to take up that task.
In the meantime, the FA has charged Chelsea with 74 breaches of rules regarding agents, intermediaries and third-party investments in players. The charges are primarily focused on transfers between 2010, 2011 and 2015 and 16 seasons. 3 deals that form part of the investigation include Eden Hazard, Samuel Eto'o and Willian, even though the players have no wrong in terms of this particular case. In athletics, South Africa's sprint king Akani Simbini has declared himself ready for the biggest weekend of his career at the upcoming World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. Simbini recently reinforced his pedigree with a strong second-place finish at the Diamond League final in Zurich, clocking 9.98 seconds, and he says that performance gave him a timely boost of confidence heading into this weekend's showdown.
Yeah, man, I think the last race has given me the confidence also to go into this weekend, and also the training has done that as well. So I'm very happy with where we're at right now. Very happy with what we have done in the last few days as well. So yeah, confidence is on a higher. Confidence is good going into the weekend, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, he'll be competing in the men's 100-meter heats on Saturday and hopefully progressing to the semi-finals and final on Sunday. On that note, it is a wrap from my side.
Thank you for that, indeed. And many people are considering about some of the biggest sporting issues, that it wasn't like the biggest weekend for us, and we're hoping for a much better weekend this coming weekend. I'm just saying so because you can get your predictions. You've got a couple of days. You've got 1 day to go.
1 day.
Get your predictions right. Yes, last week it was 40%. And you know, the pass mark of 30% or so doesn't work here, not at all.
2024 finalists Amabakania and Stellies meet again in the 2025 final. Black and White targets their 4th consecutive victory, while Maroon and Gold want to be crowned champions. This is the MTN 8 final. Wafa Wafa. Catch Orlando Pirates versus Stellenbosch FC on Saturday 13 September at 5 p.m. Live on SABC2 and SABC Plus. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. This week on FC Meets, sports brand specialist and creative director Chama Malulega talks to us about the rising Yeleti sports brand. From school sport partnerships to athlete collaborations, join us to find out more. Tune into SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus on Saturday 13 September at 6 p.m. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Retain Chai Game. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Morning Brief.
When it comes to the transformation agenda, the preamble of our constitution is very clear that the injustices of the past must be corrected. And the names of the past is clear. It's like I'm saying in the same statement. It's like truly enforcing a rape victim after giving birth of this child to give that child the name of the rapist. That is how serious this matter is. To stand up every day and look into, let's say, Cirkenhaven, General this one, Graaf that one, and all these lords.
That's Christian Martin, Eastern Cape Provincial Geographical Names Committee Chairperson.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief.
Right, so the SABC proud to partner with Africa's biggest marketing conference. It's the Nedbank IMC. So on that 1 day, which is on the 18th of September, 25 top speakers will be there, including 6 global keynote speakers. The theme this year is Marketing is Business. So clearly, if you make that connection between marketing being business And therefore, anyone in the business of communication, well, you should certainly be there. So 18th of September, it'll happen in Joburg. You can also follow it online. Go to the website imcconference.com. imcconference.com. Marketing is business.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So, Jamie Moyaha, what's the business of the SAFM Market Update today?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. We're going to be taking a look at results out of Discovery as well as the First Rand Group. Both companies gave us updates. We're going to see how each of the companies fared. We'll also have a conversation with Standard Bank on their Sustainability Academy that they launched recently. And then we're going to have a conversation with South African breweries around the importance of business voices in the B20 process. And then because it's Thursday, we're going to wrap up the show with a small business conversation. We're going to be looking at an SME called Koki and getting to know what it is that they do. Before we get to that, markets have had an interesting day. The dollar has weakened slightly off the back of the inflation print that we got out of the US, and that inflation data and that weaker dollar has led to a stronger rand. We're currently at 17 Rand 39 against the US dollar, 23 Rand 60 against the British pound, 20 Rand 41 cents against the euro, 11.57 against the Australian dollar. On the commodity side of things, the gold price is a little softer, $3,634 a fine ounce at the moment. The Brent crude price also coming back from that $68 level at $66.33 a barrel. Platinum just below 1,400 at $1,397 a fine ounce, and palladium $1,231 around that amount. And if we look at international indices, they were in the green by and large, almost all of them in the green. The Hang Seng and the ASX in Sydney, the only two international markets that were in the red, but major gains across the Nikkei, across the Shanghai Composite, across the CAC 40, the DAX, even the FTSE in London was up 0.7%. The Nasdaq's up about 0.2%, the S&P up about 0.75%. Our own local markets up 0.33%, top 40 up 0.33%, financials leading the charge there, 1.1% to the green. Industrials, 0.5% to the green. Resources down about 0.8%. And the price of a Bitcoin, around $114,000 a Bitcoin, or around 1.989 million Rand. Pretty much exactly where we left it this time yesterday. I want to look at some of the market movements when we come back a little later on, especially that CPI print out of the United States, because it is the final data point that we've been waiting for in anticipation of next week's interest rate decision out of the United States. So we've got quite a bit to look at in that respect and to see how that's going to affect the market. As I said, the dollar has been weaker today. If I look at the dollar index, the basket against the major currencies, that is down about 0.33% there. If we go any lower than where we are at the moment, we'll probably be back at July levels on the dollar index. So not the prettiest picture at the moment from the US's perspective, but we're going to look at that and see how that could potentially be driving some of the other market movements when we come back a little later on. That'll be just after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, perfect. Thanks for that. More to come, of course, from understanding the markets to understanding your mind. Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about the Constitutional Court declaring elements of names around, families unconstitutional, therefore giving people the chance, males in this case here, to adopt their wives' surnames? Excuse me. What do you think of that? What do you think of the comments of Helen Zille regarding Steve Biko, as well as her thoughts regarding water in the city of Joburg? What do you make of the city of Joburg, the mayor now committing to the areas that have had no water for at least close to 2 weeks to say, by the end of the week, 7 days, you will get your water, but at the same time saying that they will draw on water from other areas to be able to compensate that they can get their water as well. What do you make of that? And have I missed anything? Donald Trump, his pronouncements regarding the big issue of the day with the killing of one of his personal, great supporters, Kirk, that certainly dominated much of the headlines in the USA and extension in the North America as well, right? Okay, you're on the pulse. Let's hear you out.
Vinakusen have a big appetite for victory, but the Eagles are in a good mood to fly high with 3 essential points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Bayer Leverkusen versus Eintracht Frankfurt This Friday, 12 September at 8:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. Get ready, South Africa! 8,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the second edition of the Hollywood Bets Joburg 10 Kilometer, a thrilling road race starting and finishing at the Wanderers Club. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday, 13 September at 6:30 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and reports across SABC radio stations. Hashtag Let's Run. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay.
They were more than just songs. They were the backdrop to your best days and the ones that change everything. The soundtrack of your life with me, Ernest Pillay, brings you iconic classics and hidden gems that spoke to your heart then and still do now. Whether you're driving, relaxing, or just remembering, let the music take you right back. The soundtrack of your life with Ernest Pillay. It's about your past, your story, and it's all right here on your favorite station, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 p.m.
This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Everybody has a view on the ruling. Lowit in Guyana, hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'll be so quick, my brother.
Thank you. Go for it.
Yes. The Constitutional Court ruling, Ashraf, according to my viewpoint, it will be having far-reaching consequences in the sense that instead of being the cultural bulwark or a protector of of us as the citizens, it's exposing us to some Eurocentric exploitation. This has never been heard of in Africa in general, Ashraf. And then what I can say is that in hindsight, these Constitutional Court justices, they are going to regret this judgment in the long run because they will be party to the people who have changed the framework of our culture. And then we are not Europeans, Ashraf. And then the Europeans, the Western systems cannot be imposed upon us. We have never heard of this. And then it's
all right, Lowit, you said you're going to be quick. You've made your point. I think you're very clear what you've said. Let's move on. You're very clear about it. Thank you for that. They will regret it, says Lowit in Guyana. Sipo in Piet Retief, hello.
Hello, Ashraf.
Yeah. What's your point?
Just 3 points shortly.
3 points. One strong, solid point. Go for it.
Yeah, all right. I can just see the foreigners laughing all the way to the bank. You know, I am a marriage officer, and I have been having many people coming and requesting me to conduct their marriage, foreigners I mean.
Yeah.
And with this ruling now, I can just see them. And you remember, they have been actually coming into the country and stealing identities of people, giving themselves surnames, South African surnames, illegally. With this ruling now, they will officially give themselves South Africans surnames.
But it doesn't mean they can still be here legally. I mean, you know, there's a process. You can call yourself whatever you want today. There's still a legal document.
Once they've got the surnames, things are becoming easier. You know, even if they are walking on the street. But another thing is the 2 years that the Constitutional Court has given. Is it for us to challenge, or is it for Parliament to promulgate a new act or to review? Just that understanding. I need that understanding.
All right, let's find out. My view is, I mean, it's open to objections on that basis. You've got 2 years to object, so you can challenge in whichever process you use, okay? Sipo, but that's how I understand it. If others know better, they can certainly tell me. Thanks for that, Sipo. Kolani in Bloemfontein, right? What's your point?
Hi, Ashraf, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good indeed. Almost cloud the show, but go for it. Yeah.
Yes, on this issue, we must understand one thing. Law is law, right is right. So those are two different things. Law and right, they don't always go together because right can be defined in different ways. What's right to you might be wrong to me. You understand? So what I'm saying is, even culturally, some things you slaughter and tell your ancestors, good, okay, I've changed this to this. You understand? Because now change of surname, you can, like now, the next generation, I can decide to say the next generation will be Zolani. Their surname will be Zolani. You take them from the surname that they are currently with, and then you take them to your name, and then you make it their next generation surname. So to say, like, now we should understand how this started. That guy that went to court didn't want anything to do with his surname. So now he went there and said he wants to adopt the surname of his wife. So there's a choice. It's either you do it or you don't do it. But I feel pity for those men who earn less salary than their wives.
Okay, and you're laughing. Okay. Kolani, did you hear that laugh? Okay. Stephen in Cape Town, laughing. No laughing matter here. Go for it. What's your point?
How's it? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good indeed, man.
Wonderful stuff. So, firstly, I want to make a strong, solid point, not three. So, firstly, it's kind of funny some of the responses that I am listening to about just patriarchy, the reasoning behind just the patriarchal view that some of the viewers have. I mean, a lot have strong points, but some of them, it's just, almost like an ego bruise. But on that point, I do think it does have a genetic or biological component. Females have double X chromosomes, males have XY. So biologically, the female's X chromosome will consistently be there because she bears the child, where the Y chromosome can only be passed through males. So I think historically it might just have held a little bit of water. I'm not just saying that's 100% accurate, but I think it might have had.
Do you think it could be about that? Okay,
yeah.
Stephen, another conversation about that. Right, another one. Thanks for that. Tembela in Flagstaff. Right, what's your point? You're talking water.
Yes, Ashraf. My point is, I just have a question for President Cyril Ramaphosa and Penny Majortina, the water minister. Don't they understand that the issue of the water is really a crisis in South Africa? I mean, I'm asking this question, Ashraf, because like I'm calling you in the Eastern Cape, Eastern Pondoland, in the Eastern Cape. In our area, we have been promised an Umzimvubu Dam. I think it's more than 20 years now. I can specifically tell you that in my location there, we've never had water throughout the winter, but there are taps. Because the water gets to be pumped from the reservoir using diesel and all that. But we don't get that. It's not like we cannot be able to be provided with water, but because there's certain individuals from within the municipalities do not want to supply water because they've got their own personal agenda.
Well, I mean, I've heard that before, and there's people, it's difficult to prove. There's the deliveries of water to areas. There's a huge cost to that obviously is met, and it's a big business around that. But yeah, look, I hear you. Thank you for that. Either way, whatever the problems are, this is just a mess. Cities, rural areas, this thing about you have no water. What's it? Fastbait. Just be patient. Please be patient. Your call will be answered. Something along that line. It's ridiculous.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and my fellow FM listeners. Whiskey. Look, Ashraf, what's happening there at the city of Joburg, where you say the meeting that was being addressed by the mayor was disrupted. What's the purpose of having a protest if you don't want solutions? I mean, the mayor was there to engage them, they disrupt. Then surely this shows that there's politics in play. This has got nothing to do with service delivery, but people are positioning themselves for the next year local election. Thank you.
You think so? Okay, you may have a point to a degree to say if you disrupt, then how do you get to address the mayor and vice versa? I get that. But to think that this has got nothing to do with service delivery, I'll tell you something. It has got everything to do with the absence of service delivery that causes disgruntlement. And even if other political parties want to make a play for wards and get him to vote for them, the openings, the cracks in those wards come from a lack of service delivery. So if you want to sort out and get people to vote for your party, just get service delivery working. They'll vote for you.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Ben from Durban. With regards to the name changes, I think it's good. If people want to do that, they should be more than welcome to and have an avenue to do that. And if they choose not to do it, then they also have that choice. It's not taken away from them.
Okay, and I think that's the point at the moment. It is a choice. It's not like it's going to be forced upon you. So those that feel culturally that it's going to go against their culture, but then who would be the person they'd be marrying? Clearly, they would be negotiating that as well. So really, you actually have the choice. And those that feel like that's what you want, they're going to decide that together.
Hey, Ashraf. Great show as always, brother. Faga Lonke here in Durban. These rulings and these courts. I think it was Nazi from Cape Town who once said, no, this Roman Dutch law that we use in South Africa is just not working for us. This is so funny though. Yeah.
Since when is news, current affairs funny? You've just proved it is so funny. Yeah. Okay, got that. I think for me what's funny is the mayor committing to the people who had no water for close on to 2 weeks to say you will get all your water in 7 days and expect them to just clap and applause. I mean, really, that for me is funny.
Well, good afternoon, Ashraf. Just my take on this. Well, it's actually not the wife's surname. It's her father's surname. Something to think about. Yes, in Durban.
Okay, that reminds you of this guy who said about, what about double barrels? Like you could have 6 names in one go. Bit of laughter there. Right, we're going to just wrap up with 1 or 2 more quickly.
Hi, Ashraf. This is a ridiculous judgment, really. You wonder what this judge was thinking, really, when he made this judgment, really. They even break the laws of a Bible, that the man is the head of the house, I really don't know what was this judge is thinking, really. It's really ridiculous, We don't know what this South African going to, really. It's laughable, Ashraf. Thank you very much.
Hey, it's laughable, but you sound so despondent. I hear you. Let's end the show. Here's a comment. What next? Would I be told an African man to be a stay-at-home dad? What a stupid, useless piece of constitution. Coming from Ramutlwatsi. Well, there you are. Setting the agenda maybe for tomorrow. Thank you for listening to the National Pulse. But that pulse rate is going to be racing all through the night until tomorrow. I have no doubt about it. Can we catch each other at 3 tomorrow? In the meantime, please listen, download the podcasts, share it with your chommies as well. Here's the news with Greg. It's 6 o'clock.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, suspects killed in Centurion shootout and the Joburg mayor addresses demonstrating residents. Good evening. 4 house robbery suspects have been killed in a shootout with police on the N14 at Centurion, south of Pretoria.